to Turner. The rainbow is worth 3.
Jonathan Taylor having a monster game.
Joseph Newgarden takes him down to the white line. They battle for the lead at 3.
Richardson on a design run. Touchdown! I-N-D-Y.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Made it all the way to Friday. Congratulations, JB. I know you've been, both of you guys, been working like dogs getting ready for this NFL draft coming up. Have we learned anything in the last 24 hours that we didn't know 24 hours ago?
Not really, but I would just say I've been looking over a lot of the relative athletic scores, and I'm thinking to myself, I've talked about so many players, and when I start seeing some of those scores come in, as you know, Kevin, they get a little low, and I'm like, they're not going to get picked by the Colts. And so welcome in, everybody. It's Friday. It's a happy day. Thank you all for listening, and it should be a fun show.
Yeah, thanks for spending the entire week with us. We appreciate it. I'm going to be honest. I kind of tuned out the draft for the past 24 hours. I'm ready for game one. I can't wait for tomorrow. You know, it's been 11 years.
Wear the shirt.
We have had game one in our city. And so for us to have that, I think it's awesome. You know, I'm a huge believer and just lover of these types of atmospheres and environments in our city. And for fans to be able to experience that, cannot wait. Certainly some big news in regards to the series yesterday that we will get to, but cannot wait for tomorrow at 1 o'clock. 5.5-point favorite, the Indiana Pacers here in game one.
Looking forward to that. And I was looking some stuff up last night as well, and I came across couple of different predictors. I told you guys a lot. Most people think the Pacers are going to win in 6 or 7 games. The ESPN matchup predictor gives them almost. It was crazy number to me. It was well over a 70% chance of winning this series.
I'm curious how much that will change if and when Damian Lillard plays. James, you had said Pacers in 7. Is that right?
Yes.
And that was assuming Lillard was out for the whole series. Is that correct?
But I'm going to stick with my pick.
Oh. So Lillard doesn't matter.
He matters, but he don't matter enough. Pacers in 7.
So he does not matter for one game in this series.
Nope. Sorry. I still think there's going to be some ramp-up time, and we'll get into it. But as great as he is, coming back from a very weird incident. And I first of all, I'm going to just start with this. I'm glad he's healthy, and it's cleared as fast as it has. What has been about 3 weeks since he got diagnosed officially with the blood clot. And
and you read the medical. I mean, it sounds
like a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, they use that M word, and so let's just start there. I think is a great place to start.
I think sometimes we see these blood clots. We saw it with Victor Wembanyama most recently. Now we see it with Damian Lillard. Like, you just don't mess. I think Chris Bosh had that similar situation back in the day for Miami. You can't mess with that because it's a potential fatal problem.
Well, someone was mentioning that Wembanyama, like all teams do around the league, you know, the Spurs had their fan appreciation night to end the season, and Wembanyama's blood clot was in his shoulder. And as they were like throwing T-shirts into the crowd, signing autographs, he was using the other arm, and that's not his dominant arm; it was his left. And so, like, think about that. And that was what, 2 months ago, 3 months ago at this point. I mean, that was a little bit longer than the Lillard thing. So. Obviously, the ramp-up time, as James points out, certainly, he's not going to play tomorrow. I don't know. Game 2 seems a hair iffy to me, but Game 3 is what, a week from tonight? I mean, again, you get into these big gaps between games. You only have 2 games in the first 7 days of the series, so could he be back out there when the series shifts to Milwaukee for Game 3?
It'll be like the old coach. You can only focus on one game at a time. One possession at a time. Just don't give up home court advantage, JB. Just focus on what's in front of you right now.
Absolutely, and it will not include Damian Lillard, but he certainly is a factor. When I got that news, I was just like, wow, that is certainly something to note. But I would like to get everyone else's predictions for the series maybe later in the show, just to get it out there in ink before the games tip off. But again, on the Pacers side, you're fortunate that you're not in a situation where the Bucks year after year, it seems like they're always dealing with something going into the playoffs or around the playoff time. Whereas this year, the Pacers are relatively healthy. I know early in the season we had the Achilles injuries to both your key big men and Wiseman and Isaiah Jackson. But now, I mean, Halliburton, I would assume, is a lot healthier than he was last year. Benedict Mathurin's gearing up for his first playoff experience. So I'll be there Saturday or tomorrow, and it'll be rocking.
Looking forward to seeing how that works out this weekend. Also, we had the IU spring football game last night. Did you check any of that out, KB? Did you spend your evening going through and back and forth and clicking through again and again, the players, the plays, things like that?
I'm pretty sure you couldn't watch it.
Yeah, I think you said that yesterday. So that's a little tough.
Can't you find it online after the fact? Though, or
I
not?
think Kurt Signati was pretty buttoned up when it came to that game. So
That's what
I
happened.
said to my students yesterday, I was like, man, even a great opportunity to like, hey, let's let our season ticket members get, hey, here's a password and you can watch it, and hell, have some student media produce it. So, nothing from the IU spring game. I have 0 takes on the IU spring game. Sorry to disappoint you here on this
Doesn't
Friday
want
morning.
that tape
A
to get
faculty
leaked.
member didn't get a password. You can't watch it.
Boy, I can't. Yeah, can't say I got that. No.
You don't have much in over there.
Man,
I
gotta
get that.
prepare for Kennesaw State.
Speaking of college football, though,
Yes.
the news item right after we signed off yesterday, I'm trying to think how young I was when this started, but I mean, hell, I feel like it was 8, 9 years old. It got to the point where it was like, no matter what I'm doing on this Saturday morning, I need to be back in front of this TV at 11:57 a.m. I have to be back there. I've got to be ready.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a topic that I will discuss now through the rest of the day. And I distinctly remember like being at Little League baseball games and just being like, hey, did you see who Corso put on today? You see who Corso picked? And like now, even when, unfortunately, Father Time has caught up to Lee Corso, even now, I'm still saying that. Like the national title game, so my buddies text me, hey, Corso picked blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, man, I absolutely love it. His announcement yesterday, signing off after 38 years. He will do one final college game day coming up here in week 1. I thought Joey Molinaro had a great tweet yesterday about it, saying that he is our generation's, like, grandpa. He's like, I mean, some people have cartoons. We had Corso making the Saturday morning pick.
Yeah.
And I thought that's a very fitting way to describe I think someone that just made college football better, which to say that about one individual, I think is extremely high praise.
We talk about certain figures in sports, and what's annoying about the way NBA is covered is that a lot of people just rag on the league, rag on the current players. And when I see Lee Corso, it was always just joyous. And obviously he's critical of certain teams in certain moments, but overall the theme was always uplifting. And I think as a personal goal in media, I'm like, man, if I could be as happy as that guy was, on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, there's some bad days mixed in there, but overall, I would imagine he's thinking he had a hell of a ride, and it was fun, it was joyful, it was uplifting, and those are things that we need more of in sports coverage. So hats off to Lee, man. I'm going to miss him for sure. And just, a grown man picking a big mascot head every week.
Do you guys have a favorite?
Ooh, I have to think about this a little bit. Come back to me like in a few minutes.
Mine was, I think it was the Red River Shootout when they were on the field for the game, and he puts on the little Boomer Sooner hat to pick Oklahoma, and then he shoots the shotgun in the air. And I think he startled himself, and then he certainly startled everybody on set. Like Herb Street does like one of these, like he goes way back as soon as he shoots it in the air. That's probably my favorite. Obviously, the Brutus head certainly is one of the ones that he has done a whole lot. Selfishly as a Notre Dame fan, he would always dance with the leprechaun when he would pick Notre Dame there. But yeah, the old Boomer Sooner shotgun in the air probably takes the cake for me.
Former Indiana football coach Lee Corso, and because he's such a part of your week-to-week life over these past years, and he's been getting older. 90 years old, Kevin.
Is he that old?
90.
Yeah. And I felt awful for him these past few years.
It's been tough.
Frankly, Herb Street's had to almost like help him along, through the couple hours of the show. ESPN did not announce yesterday what game it would be. Are we assuming it's Ohio State, Texas? That is a week 1
the
game.
Biggest game of the week, I would think.
You have LSU at Clemson. You have Notre Dame at Miami, but that's a Sunday game. I wouldn't think he would do a Sunday game. So, yeah, Ohio State, Texas, that's obviously a huge game, defending national champ and Arch Manning and everything. So we'll see if he throws Brutus on one more time or if he, what is it, Bevo? Is that the Texas mascot?
Bevo.
Looking back at it, it's probably Brutus. That pick was hilarious. I'm looking at some of the highlights now from his picks, and he put on like the entire USC garb.
That was very good.
That was great.
They'd go all in on those things.
Yeah.
The duck outfit that he would throw on with Oregon, I thought was always very good. And just, I can't tell you how many times a young me said "not so fast" to anybody in my life. I thought I was on top of the world of like, not so fast, Uncle Tad. Hear me out on this. So, an absolute legend hanging it up, Lee Corso.
He had said that the first time he ever did that, he was talking to Tim Brando, and Brando tells this story about, Timmy, I want this show to work. I just want to be to football what Dick Vitale is to basketball. I think he got his wish, JB.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he got his wish.
I mean, that is a dream come true. And honestly, as someone who's not from Indiana, and I've learned since then, but I would like to know how many people around the country who aren't like diehard football fans, or maybe just the younger generation, knows that he was like a coach. Before that.
Seeing his emotion at, was it IU Washington last year? I'm trying to think which game was College Game Day. It might have been a little later in the year. I mean, watching his emotion, his former players showing up. I thought that was a great scene in Bloomington last year.
All good stuff, and he gets one more send-off, as you said, August 30th. We don't know which game that's going to be yet. Then we got Pacers playoff coming up tomorrow. NFL draft less than a week away. Lots to get to. We'll check it out in a moment, but first this on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Bulldogs basketball. 2025-26 season tickets are on sale now. Registration for iconic Hinkle Fieldhouse premium seats runs through May 31st. Don't miss Hinkle Magic. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
Good morning and welcome into the Fan Morning Show, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. The Indiana Pacers tomorrow afternoon, 1 o'clock. Start the Eastern Conference playoffs, a 4-5 matchup with the Milwaukee Bucks. Kevin Bowen. We talked about this yesterday. These two teams play about every 7 days over the last 5 years, right? It feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, so we're guaranteed, at least 4 games in this series. I think that will be 19 times they've played in the last 2 years. So again, game 1, as Jeff said, 1 o'clock. You can hear that on our airwaves. It's Michael Grady and Stephanie White on the call for ESPN. So talk about some local flavor with that. Again, city uniforms. I do like the look of the city uniforms. A little bit of a neon color. Rennick Bowman did an outstanding job in designing really all the paraphernalia that goes with that jersey. Gold out, though, shirt-wise. So, again, as we echo daily, put the damn shirt on. It'll be a gold shirt, city uniforms. Pacers favored by 5.5. No Damian Lillard for this game here to start the series.
Pacers by 1 million.
By 1 million.
Roll.
Ooh, one more time, Mark. I like that. By 1 million.
So they get their first game 1 win in quite a while, right? Because last year it was the Ophers in the game.
And by 1 million, I mean, if they win by 1, I'm still going to say it's 1 million. Don't care.
Last year, game 1, Milwaukee won by 1 million. So, again, 1 o'clock coming up tomorrow.
All right. And tonight, later on this evening, the final play-in games. The Hawks will play against the Heat, 7 o'clock. That'll be on TNT. And the Grizzlies take on the Mavericks on ESPN a little bit later on tonight. So you can, nothing else, you can stay and watch basketball tonight, James.
That's what I do pretty much every night, so I've enjoyed it.
All right, Major League Baseball, not a good week for our Cincinnati Reds, KB. Another loss in Seattle, 11-7 was the final score in that one yesterday. Didn't go all that well. The Toledo Mud Hens, no match for the Indianapolis Indians over at Victory Field. 7-6 was the final score in that one. Later on tonight, Mark, your Cubs start a series at home against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Oh, you're looking forward to that.
Yeah, be nice to rebound from the Padres series, but this has been a brutal start to the season as far as opponents. They have murderer's row scheduled.
Reds have to go all the way across the country to take on the Baltimore Orioles now.
They were at home, Reds. It was in Cincinnati.
That's true.
Yeah.
They're taking on, but still.
Well, they're
Orioles.
going by stagecoach. That's what's going to take a while.
Maybe if they can
might
find
after this weekend.
If they can find somebody that can help them in the bullpen after the 9th inning disaster yesterday. Fraley hits the grand slam. I'm texting our Reds group chat. Here we go. Series 1. Old baseball gods.
Well, where are you going to go?
Humble me. Yeah, I deserve it after yesterday. Thank you, Mark. I needed that. Humble me.
For all you puckheads out there, tomorrow the Stanley Cup playoffs get underway as well. Couple of games on the docket tomorrow. So it's a great time of year. The postseason is here. It's winning time, as Magic Johnson used to say.
One other item I had, I saw Mackenzie Mbako, Texas A&M for him. So the IU outs, if you will. I don't know if that's maybe the best way to describe it, but Mackenzie Mbako to Texas A&M. Reminder, Buzz Williams went to Maryland. And again, Buzz Williams has Miles Rice. So we're starting to see some of the old IU players find some new homes. Malik Renew, his hometown, Miami. Gabe Cupps, Ohio State. So a few guys landed in there. But yeah, Mackenzie Mbako will be playing in the SEC next year with Bucky McMillan in Texas A&M.
JB, you one of those guys too that like they're gone, good riddance. It's not my problem anymore.
No,
you got to cheer for kids, right?
I mean, I don't necessarily cheer for them beyond when they leave, but
you want to do okay, right?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not going to, hold it against you forever. I'm not that type. I mean, you have to be, for me to honestly dislike you as an athlete, you have to be like a bad person off the court. Like, in all seriousness, I can not like the way you play and be critical of that, but for me to like truly prey on your downfall, you have to be a bad person. Yeah, in by all accounts, he's a fine young man.
Mark, you got to find this audio at some point. Tyson brings up here, he goes, certainly a memorable Corso moment, but remember when he dropped the F it?
Yeah.
Remember that one?
I just listened to that in the break.
and he said it out loud.
Oh, yeah.
And that I feel like no one was expecting that on set. And that was relatively recent ago.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the teams playing?
I think it was Houston, and I don't know who Houston was
It
playing.
was another Texas team, I think.
At SMU? I don't remember who it was.
Might have been SMU.
That would be
Houston.
a sorry week of college football if we're going to Houston SMU.
Yeah, but that was the best. That was the highlight of the weekend, though, was Lee doing that.
Of course, I probably felt the need to have to do that.
You probably get. I wonder if you get to a point like you're in your 80s, you're like, what are they going to do?
Well,
Tell me to not to come back next week or what?
I feel like that's how a couple of my grandparents acted.
I mean, honestly, I worked at an assisted living home when I was in early college for the summer, and it would always be kind of annoying when the families who rarely came, they would come in and change like their entire diet of their mother or father, and I'm like, you have no idea that they eat ice cream like every day after dinner, because a lot of them, like some of them would lose their taste buds and only taste or smell sweet things. So that's what they wanted, and I'm like, well, if you're 96.
Sure.
I mean, at this point,
enjoy life.
Yeah, so, family would leave, and I'm like, all right, well, I see you more often than them. Here's your ice cream.
So it was SMU Houston, but it was 12 years ago. So maybe that was a more marquee.
Years ago? Man,
it was a more marquee matchup back then.
I felt like it was a little bit more recently.
There's so many moments, though, you can go to. And, we were talking about one whether we should even bring it up.
Oh, I'm not bringing this up. You're on your own with this.
But I think we have the audio of him talking about the little person there. Well,
I closed that tab.
I think it was a kid, though, is what he was talking about. But he referred to him as a different version of the, for little person. We don't use that word anymore. And he had no idea what he had just said. And everybody else is kind of like moving aside like that. Lee, don't say that.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm leaning to the side.
All right, big day ahead. We've got a lot of weekend stuff to get ready for. The NFL draft hasn't gone anywhere, obviously. And I'm starting to wonder more and more if people should fall in love with one particular tight end over the other because of just the reality of the situation. We'll talk about it next. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome into a Friday edition of the Fan Morning Show. KB, I haven't forgotten your big question from yesterday. I want to talk about it a lot in the 8 o'clock hour, but while we're talking about the Colts and draft and things like that, more and more of the mock drafts I see just don't seem to suggest, Kevin, that Tyler Warren is going to make it to 14. I just keep seeing those more and more and more. Now they're mock drafts.
Right.
Who knows what it means in the real world? But more and more often I see two guys that are so good at their position that maybe aren't typically top 10 picks at positions like tight end with Tyler Warren or maybe Ashton Genty with Boise State.
Yeah, I think we talked about it earlier this week, maybe last week. Vegas had the over-under 9, pick number 9 for Tyler Warren.
Yeah.
I think Shedeur Sanders was right around there as well. So, again, you got the Jets at 7. I know Mark's Bears at 10, the Saints at 9, just kind of in that general range. Will he get there? And that's a big difference from this year's draft to last year's draft. Last year's draft had great offensive talent early on. This year's draft class really doesn't. So when you think about the quarterback run last year, or think about we had 3 wide receivers go in the first 9 last year. You had 5 quarterbacks go in the first 12.
Mm-hmm.
This year you're going to have 1, maybe 2 quarterbacks go in the first 12. You might not have a wideout go in the first 12. There's a lot of people.
Miller's the only guy anybody talks about, right? But I don't see him as a top 10 pick.
So that's where I think Tyler Warren can even get pushed up the board. And you got to think Brock Bowers' rookie year only helps Tyler Warren. When you have a player like that walk into the NFL and do what he did. So, I there is part of me that thinks if you want Warren, you're going to have to do something you have rarely done, and that is trade up. That would be the most significant trade up in the Chris Ballard era. James Boyd.
For sure. I'm trying to think of the most recent one. Oh, last year, Matt Gonzalez, a couple of spots. And then they moved up for
Jonathan
Nick
Taylor was
Cross.
a couple spots in round 2. To be fair, he did trade a first-round pick for DeForest Buckner. But
yes, that's true.
Within the framework of the draft, that would be the most significant.
Yeah, I would bank on them trading back before trading up, which isn't like breaking any news here, but I don't know if that is like if you have to move into the top 10 to get Tyler Warren, I don't know if that's worth the price, considering that you have other needs you still need to address: linebacker, offensive line, defensive line, and by all accounts, and Chris Ballard even said this as well, he believes this is a deeper tight end class. So would that, make you a little bit more patient maybe in addressing that position? So I'm very curious to see how the board kind of falls. We all make our predictions, and then we're all wrong because reality sets in, and then you have to kind of react in real time. So we'll certainly have a lot to discuss this time next week because the first pick will already be made, most likely.
Just to map out what a projected trade-up would look like, if you went from 14 to 7, you would have to give up that second-round pick. So basically you would have the 7th overall pick. If we want to continue to play this out, that's Tyler Warren, and then you wouldn't pick again until I believe it's number 80. I think that's their 3rd round pick, 80 overall. So that's what it would look like.
You mentioned Jonathan Taylor found out from the NFL yesterday that he will be the day 2 Colts celebrity podium guy when they make their selection.
James, did you catch the list of those guys? Very smart by the NFL. You scroll through the representatives of each player or of each team announcing the pick, and it's like Wisconsin. It's like all these former Wisconsin football. They just want those cheeseheads going nuts.
Oh, yeah.
When those guys get to the podium. So, yeah, we've seen this from the NFL. They have, players of current teams, certainly the infamous Pat McAfee. Did he go Bobby Okereke on us? Is that what he went with us? And then we found out it was Okereke. After that, down in Nashville, Reggie Wayne, I believe, asked the Nashville crowd.
I love
that's
this.
the best of all
How
time.
many times the Titans had beat the Colts when he was a player. I absolutely love that as well. So the NFL has gone away from a little bit of that, and with Green Bay, they will go with a lot of the hometown flavor here.
Marco, you used to have that Reggie Wayne stuff. Do you still have that?
Yeah, give me a second.
That was outstanding
I wish
stuff.
JT would commit to the bid and just, but he can't. He can't lean into anything in Green Bay just because of what happened last year. I take that back. He did not play in the fourth quarter of that loss in week 2, so he can't talk much trash to the Green Bay faithful. Not that he would.
I know you're not born. Come on, Tennessee. Y'all done played the Colts 20 times in 10 years, and you done won 3 games. Stop it.
And you know what's crazy? He is still like that to this day.
Oh, that is peak Reggie Wayne.
Oh my gosh, I love it. You ask
1000%.
him about any wide receiver in the room, and he will give it to you straight, and also remind you like, "Hey, I was a dude too." I mean, one of the best things is,
but he kind of does it in a little bit of a quiet-ish manner. I mean,
this wasn't as flamboyant as that.
Right.
Yeah.
He's loud with his words, like they sound loud, but he kind of does it in a little bit of a quiet. He's got that New Orleans drawl to him.
Yeah, funniest moment for me this past season talking to him, and there's many of them, but when we were talking about going into the Hall of Fame and this frustration of not, getting to that final step of obviously getting enshrined, and we were asking him like, "What's your argument?" And he was like, "Well, I can't help it if these other guys sucked in the playoffs." I was like, dang, like, give it to us straight, Reggie. He's like, I can't help it if this guy sucks. I'm like, dang. So he's always going to be honest about what he did and also what his team is doing.
Kevin, you point out that the obvious tie-in there is he went to Wisconsin. They're going to be doing this at Lambeau Field. You guys talk to the Colts every day. Who would be the ideal guy from a Colts perspective, from an entertainment perspective for us that's on the current team?
Zaire Franklin.
Is that the guy?
Mm-hmm. I mean, hell, we've already seen
All
it.
right, I'm going to throw a dark horse candidate out there. I think Grover Stewart.
We've already seen it on the podcast.
Oh, yes.
Grover,
I feel like just the way he is.
but there's even more of a draw
accent,
there. Everybody's got to be locked into that one.
and that's what makes it so. He's so jovial and nice, and he's going to give you that drawl. And
would Josh Downs go there at all? I'm trying to think of could you get a little bit?
I had to get Josh Downs to smile. Were you there for that?
Yeah.
I asked him, I was like, why didn't you never smile? Like, the fans are concerned, man. You never smile with us.
Probably one of the new guys. I mean, Bynum would do it with a smile on his face.
Oh, that's true.
And Ward would certainly do it. I mean, he's got cornerback swagger.
Yeah.
So I'd say Travarius Ward, honestly.
I volunteer Mark Dyke to
Darius Leonard.
I'll do it.
Prime Darius Leonard.
I'll take the invite.
Would have done it 1,000%. Game one coming up tomorrow, Pacers, Bucks. The Lillard news from yesterday. He is no longer on blood-thinning medication. I think in terms of what we have confirmed, he won't play in game one, but then that's where the uncertainty probably starts to rise. Could game two be a possibility? Game two is Tuesday at 7 o'clock. So far, Lillard has done some 3-on-3 work. Sounds like he hasn't yet done 5-on-5 full contact. There's part of me that looks at a week from tonight. That's game three. That's in Milwaukee. Can you get him a practice day between now and next Friday? Because, again, there are some gaps. I mean, you play Saturday afternoon. The next game you play is Tuesday night. I mean, you would think Milwaukee would have somewhat of a practice between then. Then you play Tuesday night, of course, and you don't play again until Friday. You would think you'd have some sort of a practice between those two games. So, I don't know. I'm probably a little bit more in the game 3 Friday for Lillard, but certainly big news item for the series.
It'll be interesting to see if it changes the way all the prognosticators are looking at this. Almost everywhere I looked last night, people are taking the Pacers in 6 or 7. I predicted 6 yesterday. The ESPN matchup generator, which I think they put all these numbers into a computer and they simulate the game being played like 1,000 times or something like that. 71.6% of the time the Pacers come out on top in this series in that one.
We'll certainly see if those are correct, but, as we always say, the game is played in real life, not on computers, not on paper. But I do think that Damian Lillard is a factor, just not enough to swing the series back in Milwaukee's favor. I'm going to hammer it. Pacers in 7. And also, I mean, a lot of that hinges, in my opinion, on taking care of game one at home, which they haven't done, haven't had opportunity to do in over a decade.
Oh, I think this news yesterday puts more emphasis on game one. I mean, frankly,
absolutely.
that was the first thought I had, and probably game two. And you already had emphasis on it because you're at home.
Absolutely.
But to me, it puts further emphasis on it. I had Pacers in 5 earlier in the week. I do think this Lillard news shifts it by a game for me. I will bump it up to Pacers in 6. And this gets a little bit back to our Tony East conversation from earlier in the week about Benedict Mathurin. If Lillard is playing, that means Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith are needed a lot more. I mean, they're already needed a lot.
Yeah.
But now you have a specific defensive assignment for them, and a defensive assignment that probably is going to have Rick Carlisle at times thinking, boy, do I match minutes almost? Sometimes you get that in the playoffs. I mean, certainly with Brunson last year, I remember there were times where the Pacers would literally match. It probably turned into Neesmith as the series moved along.
Yeah, Nembhard just couldn't check him.
Right. He couldn't at all. They would try to match those minutes. So does that impact Mathurin in any way, shape, or form? I think I'm going to be watching that. But, yeah, when I saw this news item yesterday, after I got over the kind of the stunning aspect to it, because I just didn't think he would play, or you'd get this news item that potentially he could be out there as early as game 2, it puts a massive, massive focus on game 1. It's just so, so critical, because now all of a sudden if Milwaukee steals one without him on the road, boy, you want to talk about what that will do for their confidence?
And the other thing that they're going to need, they need, and I don't see any reason why they won't get it, but Tyrese Halliburton needs to show up and be the best player on the Indiana Pacers consistently, and if nothing else, the second best player in this series overall, JP.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's capable of doing that. I do think that he's the second best player in the series. Now, I'll give some respect to Siakam there as well, because he's capable of being that player. We saw it last year in the postseason. But to me, a lot of it comes down to how does Tyrese kind of go about his aggressiveness. And I know he can be aggressive as a passer. He can be aggressive when it comes to certain looks defensively. But the bottom line is when he scores, they usually win. And this year, Indiana is 25-3 when he scores 20 or more. Like, you got to put the ball in the hoop. And I get it. There's been opportunities and many times where he hasn't scored. 25 wins is not their entire season, obviously. So they've won without that threshold. But when he's been below that, it's been, that 10-point mark or, kind of holding on to the ball and maybe not getting the shots up. It can get a little bit clunky offensively for them. So aggressive Tyrese is always the better version to me. But again, I'm curious to see how the Bucks sort of defend him, because as much as we talk about the Pacers throwing different things at Giannis, Tyrese is going to see a bunch of different defenses. And like you all mentioned yesterday, that zone is another curious little factor as well.
Well, we talked about the zone quite a bit. If you missed that conversation yesterday, it's the one thing the Bucks have done against the Pacers that has confounded them a little bit. And we were also talking about the fact that it doesn't make a ton of sense. You got a terrific ball handler and elite point guard in Tyrese Halliburton. You got a team that generally spreads the ball around, doesn't have a problem making the extra pass. They're well coached by a guy who's seen and done it all, knows how to fix these things. And yet that Milwaukee zone at times has confounded the Pacers earlier this year, especially.
Yeah, it's been a huge question mark, I think. And yeah, like you said, Jeff, it's frankly confusing, probably more than anything. I would expect Milwaukee with their size, because without Lillard, they are big, very big in that front court. Or really, I should say big in their whole starting lineup. I mean, they're 6'8" and bigger in 4 of the 5 spots. So I get why they'd want to throw zone at Indiana. I get that you think that can slow them down a little bit. Obviously, it's much easier to set up your zone after a make than it is a miss, so that goes into it. I continue to go back to the biggest thing I think that is encouraging for the Pacers among all the, little branches, if you will, of this series. The Pacers have been a bad rebounding team for years. Years. I mean, this goes back. Hell, Bjorkgren, McMillan. It goes back coaches ago. Can we get some Bjorkgren audio at some point?
I'm getting it right now as soon as you mentioned his name.
Oh, Lord.
Was it Togetherness?
Oh, yeah.
Gosh. I want Nate Bjorkgren just around the Easter table.
They have a very high care factor. It's just about the readiness and the togetherness.
That's my favorite one.
Bringing it all back to me now, Mark.
Oh, so you sure you want him around the Easter table?
I think when we do strawberries 1, 2, 3 tomorrow on the soccer field, I might go with Togetherness on 3. To go there. But again, I rebounding has been a problem. And what does Milwaukee not do well? They're the worst offensive rebounding team in the league. So that, I think, is important. That would be a huge disappointment if that becomes a big factor in this series here. Brett points out, I think the series about Miles being able to shut down Lopez. We cannot have Lopez going off and getting the Bucks momentum. Right. We need an aggressive Turner. That's a game changer. James, would you have Turner guard Lopez? And I say that because Lopez will gun. He will roam around the three-point arc.
And he can get it rolling.
And that would bring Turner away from the basket.
Yeah, they're kind of mirrors of each other because they can do the same things, shoot the three, defend the rim. I guess my question to your question would be, if he doesn't defend Brook, who is he defending?
I know.
So I think just
because Prince is still going to shoot threes.
Yeah,
Kuzma's going to be crazy.
So I almost feel like you have to have him guard him.
Do you think we'll see Turner on Giannis much?
I think
Like
in spots
one-on-one.
we could.
Here and there,
In spots we could. I wouldn't start out like that, obviously. But if you get in the pinch or you get tight and you need just a body that perhaps isn't in foul trouble, then that's an option. They're going to have to do it by committee, though, because Giannis gets you in foul trouble. That's what's hard about it. It's not necessarily like stopping him. It's can you get to the fourth quarter, you got enough bodies to go out there and play the way you want to play because he hasn't fouled them all out. And then you also got to hope that, he's a streaky free throw shooter. Will he just miss some, and that helps you stay in the game?
Well, you're going to have to come up with a way to not let him just completely take the series over. And that's the old, how much do you just let him get his and worry about everybody else? Do you worry about him? And then if somebody else beats you, you can live with that? Like, what's the philosophy there as well?
Right, and again, he's been a huge assist guy here over the last couple of weeks.
Like I think Rick said, Jokic-like, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he's a better player than he was a couple years ago when he won MVP. He's a better player than he was a couple years ago when he was named to the top 75 all-time team. So that's the scary part about it is like, wow, this dude was already a top 3, top 2 player in the world, and he's gotten better. And I enjoy that, though, because, if you're a competitor, who wouldn't want to go up against the best?
And the overall Siakam storyline as well. I know we're throwing a lot at the wall right now, but theoretically, Siakam is the guy you would put on Giannis first. Okay? How does that wear him down offensively at all? And then, 2, we talked about the zone yesterday. I think that does stymie Siakam a little bit. Siakam's at his best to me when you just throw the ball to him in the post and you just let him do his thing for 3 or 4 seconds. It might take a while. He might not create the most separation in the world, but his touch is incredible inside of 20 feet. So in a zone, that becomes a little bit more of just not readily available to you. So again, Siakam was so good in Game 1 last year, even though he got blown out. He was just as good in Game 2. He's put up big numbers against them, but he obviously is going to have a big burden on his shoulders. And the good news is, as much as I thought the E was on the empty tank of him late in the season, these big gaps between games will certainly help him.
Here's the underlying question, though, too, for a lot of people. Someone asked me this yesterday when we were just having lunch talking about this. Pacers went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and although they were swept by the Celtics, we all know that 3 of those games literally could have gone either way in the final 10 seconds. Is this Pacers team better than last year's Pacers team overall? I would argue that they're just as good right now. And if you're in the East, I'm not picking the Pacers to necessarily win the East and go to the finals, but I wouldn't go to bed on this team. They can beat anybody.
That's a really good question. I'm always hesitant to say in the moment, like, are you better? Because if you lose in the second round in a Game 7 or something, are you not as good as you were last year? In theory, you'd have the same amount of wins in the playoffs. Like, that's an interesting question, Jeff. I have to kind of marinate on that one a bit. But I will say you got more bullets just because Mathurin is healthy. Tyrese, I believe, is healthier. So maybe that's a factor. But as I mentioned to you the other day, Andrew Nembhard played out of his mind last postseason, his first postseason run. Can we bank on that again, as a playoff riser to that degree? So that's a fascinating question.
Again, I think the one thing the Pacers do as well as anybody, though, is they'll probably only use 8, maybe 9 guys for the most part, but they are solid off the bench. That's one thing I like about this team. They play well when the starters are sitting down.
Bench had a little volatility here late, but yeah, on paper, again, we've talked about it. Giannis, the best player in the series, and then Pacers, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then once you get to the bench, yeah, the Pacers should have, I would say, a big advantage. Of course, we'll see, how it all plays out. Have you guys thought about our Anthony Richardson question from yesterday?
Nothing but that, because I thought it was a great question, and it came up with like 3 minutes to go in the show.
Was that bad radio by me?
No, I think it came off. It was organic. It came out. You had a thought, and I thought, man, we got to drill down on that. To refresh anybody who was listening yesterday, and people maybe had already gone to work or off to their day, what was the question about Anthony Richardson again?
We talk so much, and we had Dan Brigler on at 9:30 yesterday, and James asked Dane, again, NFL draft analyst from The Athletic. You can find that on our podcast page. You asked him some scouting, private investigator-specific questions, which I think is a huge part of the process. Again, the Colts, like every team, they've got area scouts across the country, and they have college scouts, like director of college scouting, assistant director of college scouting. For the most part, you could make the argument that like more of their job is about diving into the person itself than it is the player. Like, you all can watch the film, you all can see combine workouts, but who is this guy? How is he wired? What will he do when millions of dollars are now in the bank account? You know, all of that is a huge part of the scouting personality profile when it comes to these guys. So I ask you here, 2 years into the Anthony Richardson career, have the Colts missed more on the field or off the field with him?
It's a fascinating question because a young guy, we knew that he hadn't played a ton. We knew that he was young. And one thing that came to light last year, JB, is I don't know if he truly understood what it meant, the responsibility that you have to have, the way you have to be as a franchise quarterback. Not just a great football player or a great athlete, but so much more goes along with being a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I'm looking back at the Beast from 2023, the year that Anthony Richardson was drafted. And Dane has a line in here where he says, Anthony is humble, hardworking, and his coaches say he has the, quote, required wiring to digest and apply hard coaching. And I would say up until he was benched last year, they preached to us that he was a very hard worker and, you know, first guy in, last guy to leave. And then suddenly it was, wait a second, he's not working hard enough or he's not focused enough. And I think the word that Shane Steichen kept using was like professionalism and details. And that to me was like, well, where was all of this, you know, leading up to drafting him, getting him in your building? Because again, I'm not going to like let this slide. You all told us to our face, you told the fan base that he was a great leader. He was doing all the right things. And then you pulled a 180 midway through his second season. And we were supposed to just believe you or take, you know, that at face value. So I do think that it's probably more off the field than on the field, because on the field, he's been what we saw leading up to his pro career. He's been inaccurate. He's been injured. Like, and we can go back to high school when it comes to those two things. And so you can argue, oh, maybe you shouldn't have done that. But I think the off the field stuff is where the front office, the regime probably has to bear some blame there, because again, if there were tendencies to maybe not fully understand it, and I don't want to make it seem like Anthony isn't a hard worker. He works hard. He loves football, has, you know, created a beautiful life for his family, but just maybe not understanding the full scope of it. How did you not see that earlier is what I'm saying. And remember when I pressed Chris Ballard on this after the season, I said, hey man, why did it take benching him to get his attention? Like, I'm sure there were interventions before that. And he's like, well, hey, he's a grown man, but it's like when you have kids and you ask kids to clean the room, they don't always do it. I'm like, that's a horrible response. We're talking about the number 4 pick, and what you told us was the face of your franchise.
Yeah, I would say, I guess to answer the question, have they missed more on or off the field? I would say it's off the field, and frankly, I don't even know if it's that close. If you'd have told me at this point in his career that he would have missed the amount of time he's missed injury-wise, he's missed the amount of time he's missed practice-wise, and he's looked like this, and I'm talking purely on the field, I'd be like, yeah, that checks. I mean, he was largely an inconsistent, inaccurate quarterback at Florida. Now you throw in he's missed, I don't even know the amount of practices at this point, but it's, you know, uppers, whatever, 30, 40, 50 practices. He's missed half the games pretty much he's played in. Yeah, he is probably going to be looking like the type of quarterback we've seen on the field. It's the off the field that I think, to me, is more of the miss, because again, that to me is, you have so much, you just have an uncertainty when these guys project to the NFL from an on the field standpoint, particularly when you only have 13 games of evidence. The off the field stuff, you can talk to a slew of people to try and get a character. And yeah, when you sign on a dotted line, you throw a comma or two extra in there, it is going to be a little different. But to have it be to the point where you're outright benching him due to a Monday through Saturday standard that you don't feel like is living up to it, when that is preached to the nth degree within your organization, that to me is where the miss is. And James, I go back to Shane Steichen. One of the few things that Shane, I thought, said early on, because remember, Shane was hired February, you drafted Richardson April. One of the very few things that Shane would say about the quarterback draft selection at that point was, he's got to be wired to be this just incredibly motivated quarterback, that if I could say there's one common trait between Phillip Rivers, Justin Herbert, and Jalen Hurts, because they're all different types of quarterbacks. They're different sizes, they're different shapes, they're different styles of quarterback. Shane made it very clear all three of them were just wired to want to be this great, great, great quarterback. And he never had an issue with any of that. And when he harped that endlessly, that came back to the point of, okay, no matter who they draft, that quarterback is going to check that box for Shane Steichen. And for that guy to be benched midway through year 2, to me, you've missed more off the field than you have on the field with him.
I have another question about Anthony Richardson that I'll ask both you guys coming up in just a moment here. Mark, we don't do this very often, but for the 8 o'clockers, getting ready to start the 8 o'clock hour, 4-pack, a family 4-pack to go see the Indy 11 at Carroll Stadium tomorrow night. So make sure you can go. It's a 4-pack. It's a family 4-pack. You can take 3 of your friends as well. They'll be taking on Charleston, the Battery there. But right now, 239-1070, the number to call. James, pick a number between 1 and 8 today.
6.
All right, 6
That was
call.
mean.
Mark is always like 1 or 2, 1 or 2, 1 or 2. But do that right now, 239-1070. We'll talk more about Anthony Richardson and the Colts next on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's Good Friday, getting ready for the weekend. We've got the NBA playoffs getting underway after the final two play-in games tonight. The Pacers play in the afternoon tomorrow, 1 o'clock over at the Fieldhouse, 12:30 the airtime on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykton. I'm Jeff Rickard. We've been talking about the Colts for the last 5 minutes or so. Anthony Richardson, you asked a great question at the end of the show yesterday about in the pre-draft evaluation for Anthony Richardson, where you're looking at guys off the field, on the field. You were wondering to which side of that would the Colts and their fans be more concerned with Anthony Richardson at this point in time. And you thought maybe some of the off-the-field stuff. And not that he's getting in trouble or anything like that, but just the way he's approached being a quarterback in the NFL, right?
Yeah, quarterback standard, yeah. Have you missed more on or off the field with him so far? You know who we never miss off the field with?
Who's that?
That would be Greg Rakestraw.
Greg Rakestraw joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline. And we'll ask you, I bring that question up. We were just talking about that, Greg, and you do the post-game show and so many other things around the Colts and all the other great duties that you have. But to this point in time, have the Colts missed more on the field or off the field in their pre-draft evaluation of Anthony Richardson?
You know, I would say a little bit of both, to be honest with you. And obviously there was something to the off the field for the way that he was rotated out and then back into the lineup during the middle of last season. And again, I was listening to the last segment, so again, I acknowledge what the completion percentage is and the amount of time that he has missed. And yes, even though that does match what you saw at the University of Florida, it's still something that you hope to corral and correct at the, professional level. You knew he was kind of a career 50-ish% passer in college, when the standard in the NFL is to be kind of mid-60s. And so you draft him not saying, all right, we're going to work their offense around the fact he's not going to complete less than 60% of his passes. You're thinking, all right, how do we get him to that point? So I understand the crux of the question. I would say, unfortunately, it's been a little bit of both. The thing that I would add is this. Obviously, now with Daniel Jones here, this is the ultimate, hey, buddy, it's sink or swim time. And I don't think that's sink or swim in September, October, November. It's sink or swim in April when everybody gets together starting next week for off-season workouts and mini camp and training camp and preseason games. The future is now for, frankly, everybody at 56th Street, especially the guy that was the fourth pick in the draft 2 years ago as well.
That's the voice of Greg Rakestraw. He's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Rake, when you look at, I would say probably the news item, one of the news items from yesterday, we talked about it a lot in our opening segment, the legend Lee Corso hanging it up after 38 years at ESPN. Do you have a favorite headgear moment from Coach Corso?
I think it's Houston SMU, right? And you can't replay that audio on Morning Drive Radio. I celebrate the entire career. It's been very cool that, there have been the obvious local ties, to the show over the course of the years. But, yes, a not safe for work audio clip would be my absolute favorite.
The effort, I believe, if I'm even allowed to say
there
that.
you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mark Dykton. If you need to dump that, feel free. I asked that leading into spring game last night in Bloomington. Unfortunately, couldn't watch it. With how Curt Cignetti is now paid, are we now, like, IU's expectations are playoff or bust? Sounds a hair ludicrous when I say that out loud, but I guess where are we now with IU football? Like, do we have to, is it 9-10 wins? Is it playoff? What is it now?
I think playoff would be a little bit much. It'd be great if they get back there. But it used to be the line of demarcation was 6 wins in a bowl game. All right, we have now blown past that with Indiana football. So I would say like after last year, like 8 wins would feel disappointing, right? So let's say 9 wins, top 25 ranking. How about that?
Yeah, I think Vegas, Mark, you said, 8.5 yesterday for Indiana?
8.5, yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's where I'm going. Top 25. I think I said this yesterday. I'm going to stick with it. But to pivot a little bit, Rake, big game coming up tomorrow at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. And I've been asking the guys about this, but the last time the Pacers had a home game to open a playoff series was over a decade ago. And what's it been like for you as someone who follows the team to kind of see the team go through a different era now with the Tyrese Halliburton Pacers leading the way?
It's almost like we have seen 3 or 4 different eras
Yeah.
since the last time.
I was thinking of the more positive eras when I said, plural eras. I kind of forgot the other years.
Exactly. And again, has it been as bad in terms of, say, like walking in the wilderness, like the post-brawl era, where there were 3 or 4 years where you couldn't give tickets away to watch the Pacers? No, it's never been like that, but it's just been these fits and starts. And in the past, you're like, all right, Paul George wants out. Then you have this wonderfully pleasant surprise of the Victor Oladipo era that lasted about a year and 2 months, and then that all blows up, and you got to reset again. Obviously, the miserable, post-COVID season that the Indiana Pacers had, but it's been a quick rebuild every time. And obviously, given what they did last year in the playoffs and team run it back in the offseason, what you think is that, all right, you're finally here, you've built some stability. And so now is the proof in the pudding is, okay, can you win a playoff series? Can you defend home court? And it's crazy to think, you ask about expectations for Indiana football, how do you back up a great year? And I immediately say, well, maybe a win or 2 less than last year, and that's kind of a sign. It's kind of the same when we talk about the Pacers. I think most people understand, hey, listen, Cleveland's really stinking good, but you can get them, but they're really good. Obviously, the Celtics are the Celtics as the number 2 seed. I think most Pacers fans say, you know what, you don't have to match what you did last spring. Just defend home court. Just beat the Bucks as one of the best players in the world in Giannis Antetokounmpo. And obviously, at some point, we think Dame Lillard coming back, for the Bucks this series after his medical diagnosis yesterday. So, again, to me, this is simply about matching what we saw from Game 26 on. Play to your seed, defend home court, and then let the chips fall where they may once you get to round number 2. But whether this Pacers season is successful will be determined in the next 2 weeks. That's where we will learn just, the results match what we saw for the last 4 months of the season.
The great Greg Rakestraw joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline. Listen, you talk about the great Antetokounmpo and some of the other greats that we thought were going to be franchise players, but maybe didn't turn out to be so much for the Pacers in the past. Tyrese Halliburton is the best Pacers player since.
You're getting to Reggie Miller territory at this point. I think that we also tend to forget how great Jermaine O'Neal was for a period of about 4 or 5 years. Again, what Reggie has done is blown everything out of the water in terms of the longevity of being a great player for this team and being a beloved, franchise icon level player. It's easy to recite, Reggie played, 18 years for the Pacers. He was their best player for the better part of 12 or 13 years, and that just doesn't happen. Now Tyrese, it's been, 3 years, ish, so that he has been kind of the face of the franchise. And so Paul George was great, but didn't want to be here, so he tends to get shunned. Jermaine O'Neal was great. That peak lasted about 4 or 5 years. So I would say Tyrese has gotten to at least Paul George's level, to at least Jermaine O'Neal's level. And while it's going to take a lot longer to say you're Reggie Miller-like with this team, that seems to be the direction that this is heading.
That is Greg Rakestraw. Of course, you hear him with us every Friday at 8 o'clock. Rake, you and I feel a very mutual love for John Ashworth, the departing Hamilton Southeastern coach. I have an immense amount of love for the great Bobby Allen, who now is taking over their Sectional 8. I have a feeling Bobby Allen will get that program back to certainly where it belongs within that sectional. What do you make of what I would assume is probably a job that had some strong applicants of Bobby Allen heading to HSE, opposite Fishers, of course, in that school district?
Well, first of all, you've got 2 wonderful people to work for in terms of Jim Self and Drew Tower that are co-ADs in Hamilton Southeastern. And so everything from an administrative standpoint, all the way to the superintendent and Pat Mates, who is, a guy that's been around the IHSA for a long time, everything is set up to be successful at Hamilton Southeastern. Now let's talk about the, immediate future. They basically played all juniors. Their leading scorer was a senior. It was a very balanced team. Everybody else comes back. The only negative about being in Hamilton Southeastern is how good the other team in your school district has been and how good Garrett Weininger is as a head coach. And so you are always going to be measured to Fishers, Clearly, Fishers has been otherworldly, losing all of 2 games each of the last 2 years and making both state championship games. But this should be an opportunity for HSE to have a really good basketball team. I'm a big fan of John Ashworth. I'm a big fan of Bobby Allen as well. But I think the Royals are set up to have a very good year next year.
Greg Rakestraw, last quick thing. I know you're interested in Indy 11 tomorrow night at Carroll. They come off a 1-0 win in extra time.
Dino night, baby.
Yeah, let's get going. What can we look forward to tomorrow?
Unfortunately, some rain from the sounds of it. I hope there's a bit of a clearing for us to be able to play because the weather's affected both of our first 2 league home games so far. Indy did not play great until the very end to beat Miami in Open Cup play on Wednesday. You now get a shot at an MLS team in the next round of that tournament against the Philadelphia Union on May 7th. But getting back to league play, Charleston has become one of the stalwart franchises in this league. They've got one of the great goal scorers in the league in Cal Jennings, who has scored 5 times in the first 5 matches of the season. Indy did a great job of rotating their squad on Wednesday, trying to sit some key pieces and trying to make sure that, knowing how important this league match was going to be tomorrow night, that you had as fresh of bodies as possible. Now, some guys play 120 minutes. You can't avoid it. There's only 18 guys you can dress for a cup match, 20 guys you can dress for a league match. So the Indy 11 will have to play their best because Charleston, even though they've had a couple of losses, listen, they've made at least the Eastern Conference Finals the last couple of years. They're really good. Their head coach, Ben Pierman, is really talented. He's one of the best coaches outside of Major League Soccer. So Indy's got to be on their P's and Q's tomorrow night. Charleston beat them up a couple of times last year, so it'll be a good test for the Indy 11 tomorrow night.
Always good to talk to you, Greg, and I will see you again soon. And we also look forward to hearing you frequently during the month of May, as you and I have been discussing. So it's going to be good.
Exactly. Jeff and I had those lengthy negotiations yesterday, and by lengthy, I mean like 90 seconds. And so, yes, if you like the sound of my voice on this radio station, May is going to be your month. If not, well, don't turn the channel. We all need the money. So anyway, make sure you tune in during the month of May.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you later.
Stronghold, Rake standing on a table, demanding leverage.
No, it's great. I love working with Rake because this is how the phone call goes.
I was going to say, would anybody be opposed? I feel like if you don't want Rake on the air, you probably have like a character flaw.
Yeah, there's something wrong.
Could not
So
agree more.
the negotiations that he talked about go like this. Hey, Rake, what's up, buddy? You having a good week? Yeah. Hey, what's your schedule for May? And he tells me what his schedule is. You in? Yeah. All right. See you then. That's how it goes, man.
He is I'm serious. He is a pleasant human being. Everything he does is just joy. So I love to see Rake because it's always good vibes.
I was leaving yesterday, and they were putting up the street signs. Scott Dixon was putting up his own street sign. I'm like, gosh, that's got to be really cool. Like you are literally now transforming the street in downtown Indianapolis. So street signs are changing, signs of life here. I know today's going to be windy as hell, but temperature-wise, it feels pretty good. Oval test out there next Wednesday and Thursday, and that's going to be important 2 days out there. I mean, we know, unfortunately, rain will be occurring in the month of May, so that'll be a big, active Wednesday and Thursday. Sounds like all 34 drivers. I believe Kyle Larson included in there. So, Mark Dykton, we probably should start reaching out to some teams.
I like that. And you talked about the weather, too. This morning I let the dog out. It's 60 degrees.
It's balmy.
It was gorgeous.
It's amazing.
It's balmy, but like to Rake's point, I feel like it's like an eerie balmy. It's like, all of a sudden, we got some rain coming. So hopefully for tomorrow, for those making the trek downtown or walking downtown to head over to Gainbridge Fieldhouse at 1 o'clock, hopefully not too bad from a rain standpoint with that one.
I know there are probably thousands suffering my same fate right now. I was telling you guys in the break a minute ago that before I moved to Indiana, more than a decade ago now, 12 years, I had never had an allergy a day in my life. That all changed in the spring once I got to Indiana, Kevin Bowen. And I'm going through it this morning now.
I'm an Allegra man each day.
You don't strike me as a guy who's had allergy problems.
No, I had them bad when I was a kid, but I just grew out of it.
See, I'm the opposite. I didn't have them as a kid, and now I've got them.
Well, God has favorites.
Clearly.
It's Good Friday, man. I'm just saying, I'm just telling the truth.
Can we dump this coffee on myself after that comment?
Should we check it down, Mark?
Well, Kevin needs to slide you some Allegra. You guys need some bumps of like some,
I don't know about that, Mark.
Some
Again,
bumps of
maybe
allergy
save that for the
medicine.
Gronk and the snake pit here coming up in a bit.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Butler Bulldogs Basketball. 2025-26 season tickets are on sale now. Registration for iconic Hinkle Fieldhouse premium seats runs through May 31st. Don't miss Hinkle Magic. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
First time in a while we didn't have NBA basketball on TV on an evening last night. Wow. Not used to that, JB, but you'll get more basketball tonight. Will you be into the final two playoff games, one between the Miami Heat and the Atlanta Hawks, and two, the Mavericks and Grizzlies?
I'll probably have them on more so the later game just because I'm fascinated by whatever the Mavs do because it seems like all of it is wrong. But credit to the players for going out there and trying to compete. But I'm just thinking about one more sleep until Pacers, Gainbridge Fieldhouse, Game 1.
That's all you need tomorrow afternoon. Well, you can even sleep in a little bit, but not too much, JB, because the game starts at 1.
Nah, no sleeping in. I'll be up.
I like that. Yeah, that'll be 12:30 airtime here on The Fan. And then, of course, you can go to the game. It's a gold out, correct, Kevin? Make sure you got your gold shirt on.
Gold out, but not gold jerseys. They'll go with the city uniforms. I think the players are big fans of those. And honestly, I am as well. I love the look. So, yes, that's what you'll see Game 1. Gold shirts, city uniforms. And 1 o'clock, Michael Grady, Stephanie White on the call. Talk about some Indiana flavor there on the ESPN broadcast. And obviously our airwaves for every single game. And you will get, at least for the first 4 games, you'll get Chris Quinn and JJ. So if you are a man or woman of routine and you want that, you've got that coming your way. Pacers 5.5-point favorite.
Big day in the NBA tomorrow. After that Pacers-Bucks game, the Nuggets and Clippers play at 3:30, followed by the Knicks, Pistons, and the nightcap, the Lakers, Timberwolves.
Yeah, did I see the Lakers get 2 days off in between their first 3 or 4 games of the series? I saw the same kind of setup for the Warriors and the Rockets, and I'm thinking the NBA kind of knows, give those old stars some fresh legs in the playoffs.
Everybody's got that much time off. Hell, the Pacers have that much time off in their first 2 games of this series. Conspiracy theories from James Boyd.
Oh, I love conspiracy theories. No, I'm just joking a little bit there, but I'm looking forward to nightcap.
Sign me up for Dylan Brooks, Jimmy Butler here in round 1. Those two have known to maybe have a screw that's not totally tightened up top, so looking forward to those two matching up.
Major League Baseball. The Cincinnati Reds struggled this week against the Seattle Mariners.
Are you going to abandon being a Reds fan? Are you going to abandon following this team?
The last 2 games struggled.
Well, shit, yeah, the last 2. But
11-7 last night. In 10. Well, look, if I'm going to hype them up on their 4-game winning streaks, I got to be honest about the other side.
Let's be accurate, okay? I mean, good start to the week, bad finish to the week. You got to keep things in perspective when we're talking about the Reds here.
Baseball is what have you done for me in the last 48 hours, right? That's basic. Anyway, 11-7 last night in 10 innings. They lose to Seattle. They play against the Orioles later on tonight. Cubs did not play yesterday, but they start a weekend series with the Arizona Diamondbacks at Wrigley, Mark Dykton.
Yes, they do.
When are you headed next to Wrigley, by the way?
I haven't been in a while. I mean, I've been there since the upgrades have happened, but it's been a minute since I've been out there. I need to get out there. Need to bring the girls. I haven't been there since I had kids. How about that? That's how long it's been.
Wow. Some people maybe have conceived children in the bleachers there.
Definitely in the old ones, yeah, on the urinal area.
They had to
have
played the fewest amount of home games of anybody in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, because those 2 in Tokyo technically counted as home games and stuff. Well, but yeah, they are in Wrigley this weekend, so that's a good time.
Kind of feeling more baseball this year than I have in a while. I don't know why that is, Kevin, but maybe I'm more optimistic about the Reds' chances to at least be competitive through most of the season this year. I don't feel like they're going to be eliminated at the middle part of August this time around.
It's early.
Don't hold your breath.
Boy, that's quite the endorsement.
It's early.
Don't feel like they'll be eliminated by the middle part of August.
No,
so with a month and a half to go in the regular season, don't
well, where are you going to go?
Don't 13 teams now make the playoffs. I swear, 1 million teams now make the playoffs.
And that's how it's been for the Reds lately.
Jeff is going to sign up for a mini half-season ticket plan at this rate,
and trip down I-74.
And there you go.
You know, it's a good afternoon. I'm telling you, we need to take a show trip to watch the Cubs and Reds play at some point in time.
Mark, are you cooking up a little Lee Corso re-entry at some point here? I feel like you've been going through some audio.
I've been going just for that was for
that's
nostalgic.
blackmail.
I can do that. I'll have to do some editing though.
38 years, Lee Corso retiring from his spot on College Game Day. I know we talked a lot about it the opening segment. It was and honestly, I don't even want to use the past tense. It still is 11:58 on a Saturday morning. Kevin Bowen, you better find yourself in front of the TV. Like I've got to see it. And there's no way, shape, or form I ever thought like his pick indicated what was going to happen in the game. I just more wanted to see the entertainment. And I love game day. I love the pageantry.
Yeah.
I love the fans.
Yeah.
I love the band. I love the music. I love the cheerleaders. All of it. Like, it's just, man, he brought something, hell, to my childhood, my teenage years, and still now. I try to get my kids into it, and luckily Max really loves when he puts an animal on his head.
Question for you all. When you have, like, the icons move on, does that ever hit you like, dang, it's been that long? Because you get used to them being in that spot.
Oh,
and
certainly.
so in my mind,
Certainly.
I mean, like 10 years ago, I didn't think of the end for Lee Corso, if that makes sense, like as far as his career. What do you mean you're retiring? Like, you're not allowed to do that. You're supposed to stay the same age and do the same thing until forever. And it kind of gives you a little bit of humanity. Like, man, like that much time has passed. I believe he debuted in back, obviously nearly 40 years ago. And if you look at the tapes from back in, even like the way it looks, I'm like, man, like when I was watching that back in the, at least in my era, like 15 years ago, I thought that was crystal clear. And now I'm like, this looks so grainy. Like, time has moved on.
And I don't know if you guys have a thought on this. I'm good with game day sticking with the group they've got right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think Saban and McAfee have added a really nice balance to it. I think McAfee, frankly, brings Corso-type energy to it, which is necessary. Obviously, you have Herb Street, Dez, and then Reese Davis. I'm totally fine with just that being the group here moving forward.
Well, Reese is a complete superstar that is the ultimate broadcasting point guard. Just always saying the right thing at the right time, always putting everybody in exactly the right spot.
And you know what? Shout out to Herb Street. I know that he has said some things in the past year or two that have rubbed people the wrong way, but him just frankly taking care of Corso over the last few years,
it's nice to
was
watch.
really cool to see because honestly, from a just pure like functionality standpoint, it's been a struggle for Lee on air over the past few years, and I think Herb Street had done a really nice job of just kind of again helping them along and getting them through the show, and that was cool to see.
You were talking about Saban a minute ago, and I think the reason that has worked so well is within himself, he's embraced being on that show. He's not afraid to say a few things.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah.
Because you never know what you're going to get when a coach first goes on there, especially somebody who was so buttoned up as a head coach at Alabama.
Yeah, he's been good, and you can kind of see him opening up, getting more comfortable, and obviously the football knowledge is next to none because the dude is arguably the greatest, head coach of this era. So it'll be a new era for that show, definitely a new feel, but I mean, no one can really say that Lee Corso didn't give it his all because he truly did, and he had fun. That's the biggest thing that I take away from it is that, man, that dude lived and breathed college football and certainly enjoyed his time on TV.
I mean, he's a little, it's Dick Vitale to college basketball.
That's a good comp. I like that. Yeah.
And that's what he said he wanted to be from day one.
Yeah.
He told Tim Brando that.
I do like that. That's a very good comp.
And I think that he did very, very well, and we're all going to miss him. And August 30th will be his sayonara. He'll say
game
goodbye.
announced yet. We are under the assumption, or maybe I am under the assumption, Ohio State, Texas would be that game for him.
All right, coming up in a moment, we'll take another look at the Colts and what they've got going on in the final few days before the NFL draft. Get you ready to go again for Game 1 with the Pacers and Bucks tomorrow. It's all straight ahead on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Happy Friday, Good Friday. A little bit of an edge to the music this morning, Mark, and I like that. I think it's appropriate.
It's WrestleMania weekend, so we're doing
not Easter weekend, WrestleMania weekend.
Mark, Vegas, is that right?
Las Vegas.
What do I need to know?
Yeah.
It's 2 nights. So say goodbye to the wife and kids and the family at Easter. I'll take my ham and I'm going in the TV room. That's what I'm doing. 2 nights. The main event tomorrow night is
Uso.
No. He is in a match, but he's not the main event. The main event match is a triple threat match with CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns. That should be a really good one. Jey Uso is on the card tomorrow night against Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship, and then the big main event.
Gunther, right? From
Gunther,
Sing.
yes, the big Austrian dude. I was trying to educate you about it.
Right.
Royal Rumble. And then Sunday, the big match is the John Cena and Cody Rhodes match for the championship. That should be a really good one, too. So lots of surprises coming.
We get this in our backyard coming up, right?
Yeah, they haven't announced a date yet, but yes, that
part
is
of the package of events that we've gotten, right?
That will be one of the 3-headed monster events coming. That'll be the biggest one. So whenever they eventually come to Indianapolis, WrestleMania will be the cherry on top. That is the granddaddy of them all, the Super Bowl of the pro wrestling world. So we've already gotten Royal Rumble. We're getting SummerSlam at some point as well, and WrestleMania at some point with that package with the Indy Sports Car will come to Indianapolis.
Question: can you bet on wrestling?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can.
Are you putting a few wagers down?
Probably not, but yes, you can make some wagers if you are into that kind of stuff. I would, as a longtime wrestling viewer, I would say maybe just watch it. Don't bet on it, because that could be.
That's why I was curious to know.
That sounds soft.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying.
Like, Mark Dyke than I know.
Well, I don't know how you figure out these wrestling odds in the first place. I'm not sure who the bookie is doing this stuff.
I honestly didn't know you could bet on
It's just predetermined.
Right. It's like any TV show or movie that's not a documentary.
And I've never bet on wrestling. So do you actually bet on the outcome of the match or certain storylines?
So there are some events, like I think DraftKings does it or something like that, where there's like a bunch of you can just predict what do you think will happen? Is it a pinfall win? Is it a submission win? Is it a disqualification? You can bet on that stuff and you get money that way too. Or who do you think is going to win this triple threat? Or who's going to put their finisher on first?
The hyenas will get Simba or will not get Simba?
Yeah. Will a chair be used in this match?
Kevin.
Yeah.
Tyler tweeted at us here. James, he tagged you in as well. Does Damian Lillard possibly coming back concern you or change your opinion in regards to the series at all? You had Pacers in 7 originally, and with this news, you're not wavering, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I would pick Pacers in 9, but that's not possible. So Pacers in 7, and I certainly think that it'll be a factor for sure, but I'm also thinking about him missing the time, the ramp-up time, the conditioning. It's a lot to ask. He's an all-time great. I mean, he did it last year with the Achilles. I believe he was kind of bothered him, and he still played really, really well. But I'm picking the Pacers in 7. I'm sticking with it, and I just think that they're a team that's healthier and playing better. I can't even say playing better because the Bucks have been red hot. But I think they're more complete as far as health and their roles and things like that. Whereas, again, we've heard news about Dame, but there's no clarity just yet on when and if he'll play.
Yeah, to update everybody, he's out for Game 1. He's off the blood thinning medication, though. Game 2 is Tuesday at 7. Then Game 3 is a week from tonight. Obviously, that is back in Milwaukee. So maybe you circle that one. I don't know. Doc Rivers was pretty non-committal yesterday in discussing a return, but obviously they are super, super grateful that Dame is in the health situation that he is, that now he can begin to do more and more activity for him. I believe he's yet to do full contact 5-on-5 though. So
right, I saw 3-on-3, I believe.
Right. Had done some 3-on-3, but no 5-on-5 yet. So Tuesday, maybe, I don't know. Next Friday seems to be more likely if you want to look at upcoming games in this series. I did bump my prediction up a game, Tyler, to answer your question. I had Pacers in 5. I'll go Pacers in 6. Lillard is, he's just, he's a hell of a talent. And, he's a first, I don't even know if the NBA does it, first ballot Hall of Famer for a reason. And, how does it look with those two on the floor? Because, you mentioned James right there. Milwaukee's been incredibly hot lately. Well, it's been Giannis dominating the ball. Giannis, for those that haven't watched the Bucks over the last couple of weeks, Giannis is like their de facto point guard right now.
Yeah.
They're running everything through him, which is a bit Jokic-like. And that's why you're seeing these assist numbers at 11 and 12 per game for Giannis, which is much higher than it usually is. Obviously, when Lillard gets back, certainly he's a great talent, but that would shift some things with how the Bucks have played. So certainly more on Andrew Nembhard's plate as a defender, more on maybe Aaron Nesmith's plate as a defender. But yeah, I can't just stick with the same old prediction. I got to go up a game, and I don't know. Part of me thinks I should probably go up even further.
I went 6. I'm leaving it at 6 because I go back to what you said a minute ago.
You guys are discrediting Damian Lillard.
No, I'm not.
Oh, yes, I am.
I do think you were talking about
James
it a second ago.
Jeff isn't.
and I've always felt this way.
He's a Hall of Famer.
The Milwaukee Bucks have been playing incredible basketball lately, and they've had to do it differently. And yes, Giannis has had to take a lot of it on himself. It's really difficult in the NBA to miss extended time and bring it right back and pick up right where you left off, not only in your fitness level and the things that you do in your rhythm, but meshing back in with a team that for an extended time now, James, I know it's been a couple of weeks, has learned kind of to play without him. I think there's a slight transition that goes on there.
There certainly is. And again, this is a joke for any Damian Lillard truthers out there. But again, I mean, when I pick Pacers in 7, what else am I supposed to do? Flip the pick and say Bucks in 7? No, I'm picking who I think is going to win the series. I just think it can unfold a bit different. But here's the one for you. If the Bucks were to steal Game 1, do you now get into the territory of
It changes everything.
Of not rushing him back? Like, does
that's a decent point. I guess I'd have to give that a little bit more thought, James. I more went, as soon as you said that out loud, I more went with the bleep. Series is on. I mean, if you lose Game 1,
yeah, fair.
Now, and again,
I'm just not to like say this is going to happen. Just throwing it out there, like, would you get into the game? Does that buy him more time? Like, let's say you can flip it and say if the Pacers are up, 1-0 going into Game 2.
Yeah, the urgency in Game 2 might be a little
does
higher,
it be like, okay, Dame, you have to play versus you might have to play? Like,
my general thought when we discussed this, especially in the 7 o'clock hour, was the news yesterday. The first feeling I had when I saw the headline was, oh my, Game 1 now is even heightened. I mean, it's always heightened, I think, when you're at home. You want to protect home court, blah, 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 all that stuff. But if Lillard's return is potentially Game 2 or Game 3, you can't afford to let tomorrow go. Like, point blank, period. That was probably my first thought. And I guess to your point, James, and I'm going a little bit away from it, but it's kind of what you were asking, will we see him have to ramp things up within a game? Like, is this something where his return is first, hey, you get a 6-minute segment in the first half, a 6-minute segment in the second half, and that's your first game back?
Yeah.
And then we go from 12 minutes to 20 minutes. And then we, try to creep you into 30 minutes by Game 5 or 6. I mean, think back to times in the regular season. Like, remember, Nesmith missed all that time. When he came back, first it was like, you're only going to play the first half.
Right.
Is that something that's at play here at all? I mean, Lillard is, 34 years old, 35 years old? And I get that you have a lot of time off between these games, but he missed 14 games in the regular season. And it's not like he was doing any sort of ramp-up period working out. It's not like he was allowed to ride a stationary bike.
Because they were trying to make sure he could be healthy for life.
So it's just a very foreign situation that we have here. So I would say, just to kind of summarize it all, to me, it heightens the urgency for tomorrow afternoon without question. But that is a good point you bring up. It's probably a debate that, we'll have Monday morning, one way or the other.
NBA playoffs start tomorrow. I got the final 2 play-in games coming up later on tonight, and we'll tell you all about that. And also, the commissioner has weighed in on the biggest NBA story of the season so far. We'll talk about that. Also, more on the NFL draft and getting ready for the NBA playoffs next. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Great chance to reset, catch your breath, get healthy, set yourself up for the NBA playoffs. The grind that is straight ahead for the Indiana Pacers, which tips off tomorrow at 1 o'clock over at the Fieldhouse. And, Kevin, it's always good for any team, I think. You maybe lose a little momentum if you've been playing really well every other day for a while, but felt like this break came at a really good time for the Indiana Pacers, the break between the regular season and the playoffs, didn't it? Just to get guys chance to get fully healthy.
Obviously you could say that for the Bucks. Certainly it's clearly helped Lillard get his situation somewhat figured out. I mean, sure, Siakam probably could use a little bit of time, et cetera, et cetera. I think every team would probably say that it was well served. Certainly the Pacers and the Bucks are probably the two of the hotter teams entering the playoffs, just when you look at their pure win total here lately. But again, I'll echo what I said to lead off the show. I love tomorrow afternoon for our city. It's been 11 years since you've started a game one here inside your own building, and this is exactly what I just think, as a fan, these are the moments you want. And unfortunately, the Colts haven't provided that for the city at all in a decade. And now the Pacers, last year, they provided quite a few of them. And now this year, you're even going to get more home games. So it's exactly what you want. You want it to bleed in the month of May. You want Pacers and Racers. You want all of that. So hope the rain holds off tomorrow. Hope downtown is a buzz. And everybody can have a great, great Saturday afternoon. And cannot wait for 1 o'clock.
Later on tonight, one of the play-in games features the Mavericks, Grizzlies, and Mavs. And, of course, everybody is down in Dallas is really mad at Nico Harrison and the ownership there for the midseason trade that sent Luka Doncic over to the Lakers. And Adam Silver was on ESPN and Pat McAfee yesterday talking about essentially, James, defending the trade. And I know he's a commissioner. He's got to say that. But he was saying people are saying it was because of this business decision, or they wanted to do this, or they want to do that. He honestly believes that they just did a basketball move and did it in the best interest of their franchise. It's hard to wrap your head around that, but that's what they're all selling.
Yeah, I don't know what else he could say, honestly. I mean, what do you want him to say? I know Mavs fans are frustrated, but that's between the ownership and whatever decisions they obviously made to move on from Luka. And every time we hear quotes from their CEO or their new, I believe, majority owner, or even Nico Harrison himself, it all doesn't make a ton of sense. And it is what it is at this point. I mean, you look at some of these trades, they can be pivotal for your franchise, both good and bad ways. I mean, if you want to take it to the Pacers angle, the trade for Tyrese Halliburton has completely changed the franchise. That led to the Pascal Siakam trade, which has also changed the franchise. Look at where the Kings are. I think Domantas Sabonis came out the other day and said after the season ended, we need a point guard. Well, you had two, and you got rid of them. So, again, these things can go one of two ways often when it comes to trades. And, for the Pacers purposes, they're in good shape. Mavs purposes, not so much.
And, Kevin, I bring this up because I wanted to put some focus on Kevin Pritchard. I talked about it a little bit last week. But I think given the circumstances, given the market size, given all the things that have taken place, from the Oladipo injury that you brought up to the Paul George situation to all of these things over the last, 10, 15 years, I know they haven't had that home series advantage for a while, but he finds a way to continually reload this team and keep them relevant without ever falling off the cliff, and I love that about him. And I think he's put together a really strong basketball team right now.
Well, I think the most important thing, and I've said this before about Kevin Pritchard, is he admitted he was wrong on the Turner-Sabonis duo. Once he got to that point, and I think that's a very difficult thing to do, frankly, for anybody. People in positions of authority, they want to be right. There's a level of ego, and I say that across all industries, not just professional sports. But can you admit you're wrong, and can you pivot at a critical juncture of, in this case, your franchise? And he pivoted, and James just brought it up. And now look at where the Kings are and look at where the Pacers are. I mean, you were able to get a world-class talent in Tyrese Halliburton, a guy that is not only a tremendous player on the floor, but he genuinely wants to be here. Genuinely wants to be. Probably more of an Indianapolis personality than some other stars. That's critical. And, certainly the Siakam trade and, even the ancillary pieces, getting Neesmith for what you got him for, Nembhard early second round, Mathurin as a top 10 pick. I think we act like, just because you're a top 10 pick that you're going to work out in the NBA. There are so many busts that are drafted in the top 10. Matherin obviously has been a key find for you. So, yeah, major credit to Kevin Pritchard and company for what they have built and continue to build.
Can I read this quote to you from Kevin Pritchard? This was like hours before Tyrese's debut as a Pacer. And he said, we really feel like when we put the ball more in Tyrese's hands that he can really blossom into something special at 21 years old. For me, when you get those kind of guys, it's like getting the Peyton Mannings and the Andrew Lucks. And when he said that at the time, I was like, Kevin Pritchard, you are insane. Like, why would you put that kind of pressure on this dude coming into this city, comparing him to those guys? And one of them has a statue outside Lucas Oil Stadium. And, again, I don't think he's on the level of Peyton Manning, obviously, but the trajectory has been spot on for Kevin Pritchard as far as Tyrese's ascension, because he was not an all-star with the Kings. He was not all-NBA. They had to kind of see that beforehand, make the move, and then he's just blossomed into being a superstar. So hats off to Kevin Pritchard. Play the lottery if you still feel pretty lucky from that one, because that was, spot on. I thought he was crazy. It was great.
We should probably ask Rick this on Tuesday, but Rick Carlisle was hired the previous offseason. The trade for Tyrese, I believe, was February 2022, if my years are right, and Carlisle was hired that previous offseason. Rick has said, like in Dallas, they were huge fans of Halliburton. I think Rick was a huge fan of Halliburton in the draft process. Dallas, I want to say, picked like a handful of spots after Halliburton went, late lottery there. And so I'm curious how much that influence also played into the trade being what the trade was.
Well, it was a terrific one, and the Pacers set themselves up at least as a 4 seed and a host of a first-round playoff series, first time in a while. It starts tomorrow afternoon at 1, and we'll talk more about that as the day moves along. And I wish we were talking more. We're making the point in the first hour. I wish we were talking a little bit more about Curt Cignetti's second spring game and what it looked like, but we didn't get to see it. Nobody got to see it. James.
Nah, I was not going to sneak down to Bloomington to try to get a preview. If Kevin Bowen wanted to take one for the team, he could have, but I don't know if, getting arrested is a great example to set for your students. Wow. I would imagine you would if you tried something like that. When I cover Illinois football, they're pretty strict about, the closed practices and things like that. And we've had people that definitely tried to get in there when they weren't supposed to, and they were, reprimanded accordingly.
They disappeared, never to be seen again.
Access got revoked pretty quickly, so we got some time before we can get into IU football. But it is, the question we've talked about, are they for real? And I think we'll have a chance to obviously answer that after the first 3 games of the season. Those first 3, I'm like, okay, great, you're halfway to a bowl game. After that, we got to figure out if you're legit.
Is their first Big Ten game you're fighting Illini?
It is. And I'm contemplating, should I make it down there if possible?
And Illinois, for those unfamiliar, Illinois is like a preseason.
Oh, we're good. We're back, baby. We good.
I was going to go out and say like a preseason, like kind of a playoff sleeper, right? Isn't there that type of thought of like,
yeah,
at the very least a top 25 team? But I think there are some people that believe Illinois could really, be, I don't know, the 3rd or 4th Big Ten team that could challenge for a playoff spot.
Yeah, honestly, they've kind of gone through. And
they won 10 last year?
Yeah, I believe they won 10 games last year.
When's the last time that happened?
I'm looking at it right now, and it looked like it was 2001, and I think that was when they actually won the Big Ten title. Yeah.
The Juice Williams?
Yeah, so it's been quite some time, but they've, kind of had this resurgence under Brett Bielema, I'm sorry. I forgot how to say his last name.
Bielema. You had it right the first time.
There we go, Bielema. And also, again, that's a test, and jokes aside, for IU to kind of see where they, stack up, because unlike when I was in school, Illinois is no longer a slouch, and IU isn't either.
Well, it's nice to have expectations on Indiana football, because if you've got expectations, it means you've done something to earn that.
Yeah, someone's asking me, was that the Lovey era? Yes, and it went horribly. It was pretty bleak in Champaign for a couple of years.
My greatest memory
Santa
of the Lovey. Yes, that's it. I was going to say the greatest memory of all of us from that era was just the Santa beard, right?
Yeah, it was so hyped.
Oh, so good.
When he got hired, people were like in the streets. He came to like our student center, and he was being mobbed like he was just because again, he's the Bears Super Bowl coach. And then it went sideways after that. And I believe the year I graduated, they lost to Iowa 63-0. And I had graduated by that point, but I remember thinking, like, how do you lose to Iowa 63-0? So long way away from that. And again, same deal with IU, where for years they were just this afterthought, this easy win. And now, like we talked about, they're looked at as probably being a preseason top 25 team.
I mean, Iowa Hawkeyes fans couldn't even count to 63. They've never seen that point total in their life. They're like, usually it's 6 or 3, not 2 numbers pushed together.
When I was at IU,
when I was at IU, Wisconsin scored 83 on Indiana in football.
Wow.
83 points.
Jeez.
It's hard to try to make.
I remember I was on campus
83.
that Monday, and the players were wearing their gear to class, and I'm like, boy, this might be one of those days that I just, maybe I find the high school garb that still fits me in the old closet. I don't know if I really want to be rocking that.
Incognito?
Hey, real quickly, speaking of garb, nice T-shirt today, the Market Square Arena T-shirt.
Yeah, I thought, shout out to the shop, shout out to Brian, and wonderful. Half my closet is probably A, the shop, or B, home field apparel. But yes, I thought with game 1 coming up tomorrow at 1, this would be the perfect T-shirt to wear. Nice. Scott Tolzien was the quarterback when they put up 83 on Indiana. It was 10-7 at the end of the first quarter. It was 10-10 at one point in the game, and Wisconsin finished the game on a 73-10 run.
A run? Oh, my gosh.
73-10 run.
That's
10-10 here, early second quarter. And then Monte Ball scored. And
is that
then
worse?
James White scored. And then
83?
Monte Ball scored. And then Scott Tolzien threw a touch.
It's funny. You mentioned
Is
Monte.
that worse? 83-10? 63-0? Which one do you think?
I think 83
at least he scored.
83 in football to Wisconsin?
But getting skunked?
Getting skunked, though. It's hard.
No.
At least your offense scored.
Fair enough. I mean, it's both. Yeah.
83 is worse.
Asking, what's worse, this garbage or that
Dusty
garbage.
Keel got in the game. Shout out. Edward Wright Baker. This box score is incredible. Tolzien was beautiful. 15 of 18.
Would you rather have kick in the butt or kick in the nuts? Which one do you want? Either one is painful.
Yeah.
Definitely, I would take the kick in the butt.
Yeah.
Come on, Mark.
All right, coming up in a moment, we will get back to talking about the Pacers and the Bucks. Also, a little bit more on the NFL draft. We got a great guest, a friend of yours, coming up at 9:30 to talk basketball.
Yes, Eric Nain covers the Bucks for The Athletic. Does a fantastic job, and he'll give us some perspective from the other side.
All straight ahead, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's Good Friday for all of you who celebrate. Enjoy that. And the weekend, I know my kid has Friday off today. How about that? Gotta like that. So he's sleeping in, and I know everybody had a chance to kind of reset last night because there was no NBA on unless you were watching some Major League Baseball. You probably had time, JB, to do other things last night. Did you do other things, or did you watch sports?
Yeah, I went to see Sinners, which finished the morning of Good Friday. So I don't know if my grandma will be pleased with that, but, I mean, the movie was fantastic. I would encourage you all to go check it out. But they had posters afterwards they were giving away. And for those who are a little bit uninformed, Sinners is the new movie with Michael B. Jordan. And I checked it out, and they had signs and posters afterwards to take. And I was like, if I take this home and my grandma sees this in the apartment or sees this in my book bag or on the property that I possess, she might get her holy oil and, like, cast me out of her house if I go see her on Easter. So I passed on the poster.
Well, that's good. What about you? Family time last night, KB? Night off from sports?
I'm trying to think. Nothing. Yeah, night off from sports. Nothing too crazy. What did we play? We played a couple card games with the kids.
Nice.
Yeah, that was about it. Yeah.
Go fish, or what are we talking here?
We got Old Mermaid and Go
like Old Maid?
Sharks.
Okay.
Yeah, Go Sharks. Max is thrilled with that. So yeah, we did
Go
that.
Sharks. Is this a new thing, or I don't know?
Is that just a spin on Go Fish, I assume?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Old Maid.
But you got
loser
sharks.
recipes.
Yeah, you got Sharks. So Max was all about it. But yeah, it has been a weird week of, like, man, I'm kind of antsy now from tomorrow for tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And next week we'll get, obviously, the game on Tuesday. And then James probably, our lifestyles will shift a whole lot next weekend with the draft. Again, for those that are not up to date with how the draft has, really evolved over the years, 3 days of it. Day 1 will be a week from Thursday. That's just round 1. Day 2 will be a week from tonight. Opposite Pacer Bucks game 3. Rounds 2 and 3 next Friday night, and then 4 through 7 coming up a week from Saturday. Chris Ballard will have his pre-draft presser on Monday. So, James, I know you'll skedaddle out of here a little bit early, 9 a.m., I believe, for that on Monday.
Yes.
Yeah. Looking forward to all week next weekend. Really, it starts tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, and 4 NBA games right in a row if you are an NBA nut. But the one we're concerned about, of course, the Gold Out at home, Gainbridge, the Bucks and the Pacers, and we're going to be talking to a terrific Bucks writer for The Athletic coming up at 9:30, a friend of yours, James.
Yeah, Eric Name. He's a great writer, pretty good person as well, and so I'm excited to talk to him. And I'm looking at our YouTube chat, and I love you guys because this is hilarious. Dion W. says, Dame Lillard, Dame Dash, Big Dame, don't care, Pacers in 5.
Ooh.
And so if you thought I was being bullish, he is certainly talking the talk. And so we'll see if the Pacers can.
That's a broken Dame watch, right?
Yeah,
on the old Dame time.
So we'll see if that comes to fruition. But I just imagine I pencil them in for at least 2 wins based off of Giannis alone because he's that good. But I can't flip my pick. I'm sticking with it. I'm going Pacers in 7, and it certainly hinges, I would say, on game 1, getting out early, getting a lead, playing from ahead because you don't want to give a team more confidence, having gone on the road and beat you at home.
And, of course, the NFL draft coming up Thursday. Chris Ballard, as you guys were mentioning a moment ago, will speak on Monday. What do you expect him to say? What do you think is going to be said?
I mean, not much. A lot of this stuff is usually, I like to pick his brain on, okay, how many first-round grades do you have? Because I don't know if people really keep up with this, but most coaches, at least year to year, they don't always have like 32, first-round grades for players. There's usually, Ballard would tell you, we've got first-round grades on 18 or 19 guys, although there'll be more first-round picks. That's always a little bit interesting, asking, hey, for the umpteenth time, what positions are you targeting, things like that, which he probably won't go too in-depth with. But I expect a lot of these questions to be about the quarterback situation, Anthony Richardson, because I believe next Tuesday is the first day that we will have a chance to talk to the teams they regather for off-season workouts. Those start up Monday. We'll talk to them on Tuesday. I would imagine we talk to Anthony Richardson. That's the hope and the plan. So maybe, preparing ourselves to talk to Anthony, but also refreshing our memory or just refreshing some of the topics with Chris Ballard because, we don't get oftentimes chances to talk to him throughout the season or throughout the calendar year.
James, you and I were talking during the break. I want to play this Joe Flacco audio from yesterday. James, this is the first time that you said you've heard it. I know this was kind of making the rounds yesterday. I had a few Colts fans reach out, kind of curious our thoughts on it. Flacco signed with the Browns, re-signed, I guess I should say, with the Browns a couple weeks back. He went on, I think it's 92.3 up there in Cleveland yesterday. Was asked generally, Mark, I think you included the question here.
Yeah, questions there.
Basically, old guard in the NFL asked about the young guard quarterbacks, and I don't know, maybe some people could hear a little bit of an Anthony Richardson comment in this answer.
What necessarily is different about the quarterback position than when you came into the league as a rookie? Or is it?
Hey, listen, there's definitely things that are different just in general. I don't want to necessarily get myself in trouble by like giving you my exact thoughts on what's going on in the league right now. But everybody wants to get everybody out there right away. And like, listen, I get it. I wanted to, when I was a rookie, I wanted to play right away. That really wasn't the plan, but I did want to play right away. I think these days, though, just because there's not, you don't have to commit as much money in the draft with these guys. Like, obviously, the top picks are still getting a good amount of money, but they're not getting the type of money that like was starting to happen. Like when I was a rookie, when you were a top draft pick, you were assigned a lot of money. I think it's become a little bit easier to draft these guys a little bit higher. So now you're getting guys that haven't played a ton of college games, maybe, and you've drafted them so high. So now there's a lot of pressure to get these guys on the field right away. And, so now just by like the sheer numbers of it, you're going to get a couple guys that were probably drafted a little bit higher than they would have been 15, 20 years ago, because you would have like really had to make a big commitment to them money wise 20 years ago that you don't quite have to make now. And then because you do draft them so high, you have to play them. So now there's just naturally going to be a couple guys here and there that maybe you drafted in the top 5 or top 10 that maybe 20 years ago they would have been second round picks, and they would have been willing to keep them on the bench for a little bit. And now because they're the third pick overall, you have to play them, and they're not quite ready. And then then mentally it hurts their development. So there's a lot of things I think that you could probably say, and that's what I'll go with.
I thought it was interesting. He prefaced that with, I don't want to get myself in trouble with my true thoughts, but then he gave a lot of his true thoughts. But I think, James, he's right on all counts. I think sometimes we rush guys that are not ready to play in the National Football League. Doesn't mean they're not talented and won't be, but it's got to make it happen right now. We drafted him in the top 5, got to make it happen right now. And sometimes I don't know that that's your best option.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to digest it. You can certainly read between the lines if you wish to, but I didn't think of it as like a personal shot towards Anthony. But the reality is, and if people took it that way, is this situation with the Colts not what he described? Is that not true? I mean, a lot of times when I think of people speaking on these matters, and maybe some people taking offense to it, it's like, well, what was said untrue?
Right.
It's not.
Right.
And Anthony hasn't. I mean, everything that he talked about, he didn't mention him by name. And this is my words, not Joe Flacco's, but yeah, he played 13 college games or 13 starts in college. Yeah, he was injured in college. Yeah, he didn't have a lot of snaps in college. He comes to the pros, and there was a lot of pressure on the Colts organization. I think that's just overall because they hadn't got it right since Andrew Luck to play him right away. I mean, he got the job after, a quarter of a preseason game, and that was it. So, and looking back on it, these are Chris Ballard's words. I remember he told the Athletics' Jim Trotter during the bye week last year, man, maybe I shouldn't have played him right away. So these are all thoughts that are out there, and I don't mind the guy for saying what we're all thinking anyway.
Yeah, I nod my head at a lot of what you just said there, James. Ballard, I think, can point back to the last couple of drafts, and probably there's a correlation between C.J. Stroud's college experience, Jaden Daniels' college experience, and Bo Nix's college experience. Those guys played a lot of football. And in Stroud's case, and maybe a little bit in Nix's case, they played it on, and Daniels' last year, they played on a big-time level. Big-time level. not only did Anthony Richardson only play 13 games, but Florida was 500 in that season. So he didn't really get the big-time moments that even those other guys got. Boy, I think it's such a it's an interesting hypothetical to throw out there. If you would have sat Richardson, would it have been better? Because let's say he sits for 2 years. You now have a guy that has played 13 games of football. Add that onto his high school resume in like the last 7 years. I mean, that's unheard of.
That'd be impossible.
So now are we going through like growing pains of playing football games as well? If you follow me there, like, because I think there's only so much you can learn in watching, especially a quarterback. Especially, I mean, it's the only position in
get
sports.
Better about playing.
Only position in sports where you literally wear a different color jersey in practice than you do in a game. Like you can't be hit in practice. You can't be touched in a practice. And the Colts were all singing from the same hymnal there the night he was drafted, James. I mean, the night he was drafted. Ballard, I guess Irsay would have been a couple days after. But Ballard, Irsay, Steichen, they all were in accordance of he's got to play, he's got to play. There's no position that separates you more from practice in a game than reps. You can only teach so much. I mean, you and I have watched Richardson in a lot of practice. I mean, you go out to Grand Park, he looks like a fine quarterback. Last year, he was 65% throwing it. He's fine. Then you get into games, and it looks different. So, I don't know. It's I get that it's a popular debate. I understand that. I think Flacco makes a good point in how much the quarterbacks get paid, I should say. That is a good point that he makes. But at the same time, I just think it's a lot of just general pressure on you see other rookie contract quarterbacks have success. Mahomes and Allen and Jackson and Hurts, Burrow. I mean, these guys got to Super Bowls, won Super Bowls, got far in the playoffs, however you want to describe it within that rookie contract. Everybody wants to taste that. And when you don't, you're obviously going to second guess it.
And I think there's a real fine line. Like, I don't think you want to come in Anthony Richardson's case and give him 2 years to learn. I'm just talking about get into an NFL season, 5-6 games. The opportunity, because you're a bad team, you probably there's a reason you were picking in the top 5. It's probably going to present itself. But with a guy, my concern always was with Anthony, so little experience in college. Now where most guys like you were talking about, like a Bo Nix that has all that experience, his real transition to the NFL is really going to be about speed and timing. That's so different at that level than it is in college. With a guy like Anthony Richardson, now you're still asking him to continue to learn the game while you're trying to make that physical transition too. And I think and I'm not talking about just physicality, but knowing how the biggest difference that all these quarterbacks have told me over the years between college and the NFL, it's obvious, but they all talk about it. It's the game is so much faster. Your reads have to be so much quicker, and your decisions have to be so much quicker. Now you're still trying to learn the game itself as you're doing those things.
Yeah, and then maybe you all can fill me in because I'm not as historically aware as I am with like basketball versus football. But people talk about sitting guys. How many times has that worked in the last 20 years?
People will bring up Mahomes sat.
Like,
people
I know
will bring up Jordan Love sat. People will bring up Rodgers sat. Yeah. Where I oftentimes push back against that was, do you know what those guys did in college or the experience they had in college? Like, Anthony didn't have that. And so that's what I think made it so difficult I'm a huge believer in just you got to have some hands-on learning. You got to have some actual tangible experience. And, yeah, I mean, for Anthony's – he was a top 5 pick, so it's hard to argue against the money that he's made. But if he had to do it all over again, would he have gone back to Florida just purely for experience? Now, granted, he would have been pushed into the next year's draft class, and that draft class was Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and all of that. So, like,
looking back at it, you definitely still
for
don't.
His own personal development.
Yeah.
What could one more year at Florida have done for him? And honestly, I think the further we get into this, the Anthony Richardsons of the world, James, they will stay in college because of NIL.
Yeah, absolutely.
And NIL was still a little bit alive when Anthony was playing, but you imagine getting, $2 and $3 million to
starting quarterback at Florida.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty good gig when the NFL money is still going to be there.
That's an interesting point you just made, but when people, and I think you're talking just strictly football development wise, but
correct.
In reality, it's
or
like,
a little bit of general maturity. Not to dive too deep into it, but it gets back into the debate we had a little bit earlier in the show. Have the Colts missed more on the field or off the field with him? I mean, what would one more year of just, and I'd say this about Kevin Bowen at the age of 20 or 21. What did one more year of general college experience do for me? I mean, hell, I would argue probably a lot for me personally.
Yeah, and you're not wrong from looking at it from that standpoint, but whenever we talk about these decisions from just a purely like life standpoint, he made the right decision 10 times out of 10. You got to go. Someone tells you can be a top 5 pick, make $30 million plus guaranteed, you're leaving. We all would. And that's the reality of it. So it's a little bit of,
But again, I think some of that will change from an NIL standpoint.
Yes, but even then, I mean, let's say you've developed, you got quite the athlete in Max Bowen, right? and you look up and let's say when he gets to the college age, and you say, oh yeah, you can stay in college for NIL and make $2 or $3 million, or these people are willing to pay you $40 million guaranteed. Like, you probably still go like that. That's, I mean,
on top of sponsorships.
That's what I'm
everything.
saying. Like, it's hard. It's hard to say you should stay. And I will say it's easy for me to say you should have stayed. You should have developed more. And I still think that a year of college football, another one, would have greatly helped him. However, I understand the reality standpoint where I play a violent game. They're telling me I can make this kind of money right now, change my entire family's life tomorrow. I got to leave. So we'll see. But the pressure's on, and it certainly will not get any easier. And the thing I'll throw out there to you all is, and what we've talked about, the QB competition thing is not over by week 1. It's going to be an ongoing conversation for the entire season, I would assume, if either quarterback wins the job and they're just not really getting it done. Like, if Daniel Jones goes out there and wins the job, but he's not really lighting it up week to week, we're all going to be saying, well, where's Anthony? And then vice versa. So the Colts have kind of put themselves in this spot because for years they kicked the QB can down the road, and the moves that they did make to find a long-term answer just weren't long-term answers. And now you can argue that they still haven't found a long-term answer.
It's a great discussion, and we will continue to have it right up through draft day, probably forever as well, because rookie quarterbacks like Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels ruin it for everybody, KB. He's come on and make it look easy, right? Out of the gate.
Certainly they do.
Let's check it down real quick.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Butler Bulldogs Basketball. 2025-26 season tickets are on sale now. Registration for iconic Hinkle Fieldhouse premium seats runs through May 31st. Don't miss Hinkle magic. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
No basketball last night. That will change tomorrow. 1 o'clock tip. The Pacers hosting the Milwaukee Bucks. First round Eastern Conference matchup. 12:30 airtime here on The Fan with Mark Boyle having the play-by-play. And, of course, the game a gold out if you're going to Gainbridge Fieldhouse tomorrow. Later on tonight, the final 2 play-in games take place. The Miami Heat travel to Atlanta to take on the Hawks at 7. The 9:30 game features the Dallas Mavericks taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. And then you got 4 games on the schedule tomorrow after the Pacers play the Bucks. You get the Nuggets versus the Clippers, followed by the Knicks Pistons, and late tomorrow night the Lakers take on the Timberwolves. Major League Baseball last night. Cubs were off, but the Reds lost at home to the Seattle Mariners. 11-7 the final score there in 10 innings.
Are you going to abandon being a Reds fan? Are you going to abandon following this team?
It was completely unnecessary.
You've been ripping them all show.
Dang, we got a what the hell from
You said they stink. I'm
wow.
Trying to roll through this.
Hope
in
the
a
Easter
timely
Bunny
manner.
kicks you in the nuts and the butt.
Yeah. I should have said teeth. I said nuts and butt. That's fine.
He's into the WWE mode already.
Yeah.
Well, where are you going to go?
You and the girls already had your own Royal Rumble this week, getting ready?
Well, I mean, they don't. I feel like we've promoted this like they kick my ass every day, and we are not like that violent at home. Like, yes, we do get into some scraps, but it's not a daily occurrence.
We get into some scraps.
Oh, don't worry. I'll be going home this weekend, Easter Sunday, and inserting my dominance over my father. So
that's right.
I'll check back in with you all Monday morning.
Then
let you know how that goes.
Turn on WrestleMania with them, and be like, that's going to be you soon. I'll bring the steel chair to town.
Indianapolis Indians back at home tonight. They lost, or they did beat the Toledo Mud Hens 7-6 last night, the final score there. So That's what's happening in the world of sports. Anything else you want to throw in, KB?
Mackenzie Mbako, for those that care, off to Texas A&M. So some of the Indiana players from last year, destination-wise, Miles Rice will stay in the Big Ten. He's going to Maryland, where Buzz Williams is now the head coach. Buzz Williams came from Texas A&M.
I love Buzz Williams.
I do love me some Buzz Williams. Malik Renew back home, Miami. That would be the U. They had an awful season with Jim Larinaga hanging it up. So that's where he's headed. I want to say Gabe Cupps, Ohio State. So just a few destination spots. Of course, Cam Heide to Texas, Miles Colvin to Wake Forest. So Purdue, their losses heading to that way. Am I nitpicking too much? Purdue, defensively, 6'6", 6'7" wing. Is that a concern at all? Heide and Colvin, probably
you're hoping you get your big man healthy, right?
Probably their two most athletic players. Yeah, but that doesn't really solve the 6'6".
Yeah, I certainly think that is something that has to be addressed or could come back to bite them if they don't get that.
Like, again, there's a little bit that I say this out loud, and I'm like nitpicking Tiger Woods' game in 2001. I want to make that clear, but just throwing it out there.
But if we're talking about expectations for next year,
correct,
which we've said for trying to get to the Final Four.
You want to be at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah, nitpicking is fine because the margins are usually what decide whether you want to lose.
All right. Coming up in a moment, we'll talk Pacers-Bucks with good friend of JB, a writer for The Athletic, covers the Bucks. Be a great perspective. That's next. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The NBA playoffs coming up tomorrow. Looking forward to the Pacers hosting at Gainbridge against the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm even with the return of Damian Lillard, I'm still bullish on the Pacers. I think this team is rolling and feeling good right now.
They should. They've been playing excellent basketball. I believe winners of their 13 of the last 15 going into the playoffs. The Bucks obviously were very hot as well going into this thing, so it will not be an easy matchup by any stretch of our imagination. But I do think that it still favors the Pacers, mainly because they're the healthier team. And I understand Damian Lillard has kind of had this miraculous development, and we'll get into that. But I still think that ramp-up period, KB, will be something to kind of factor in for this series.
Again, 5.5-point favorite for game one, the Pacers, and the odds have shrunk a little bit, but they are still the series favorite in this one.
I believe we have Eric Name on the line now from The Athletic, covers the Bucks for us, and I got to give a shout out to Eric for making this work because he told me he's on Central Time. So 8:30 is a little bit earlier than 9:30. So
nice.
Appreciate that. Joining us on the Payless Snickers hotline. Eric, how you doing?
If there's one thing sports writers love to do, it is wake up before 9 a.m. So here we are.
I was like, I'll tell you what, I do not miss the NBA lifestyle.
James,
you
owe him this weekend when he's in town, okay?
I owe him something.
On behalf of us, you owe Eric.
I was like, I like my 1 p.m. kickoffs once a week versus, the nightly or every few nights a week. But, Eric, let's start here. The biggest news of the series heading into it is the development that Damian Lillard has cleared the blood clots and has the trending in the right direction. What's the latest on his status for this series and what it could possibly mean for the Bucks?
Yeah, the Bucks have made it clear that that Dame is not going to be able to play in game one. So on Saturday, tomorrow will not see Dame Lillard playing tomorrow. But they are now hopeful that he will return in not just this postseason, but in this series. And it is kind of it is a crazy thing to imagine where we are, right? Like you look at the history of NBA players and blood clots, and it has just been a very long history of players that haven't seen the floor in months. And this getting done in I think it's about 3.5 weeks, and getting him back on the floor is relatively unprecedented. But, as you talked to people, at The Athletic, we were the first people to report it that there's heavy optimism that Lillard is going to return this year. When you talk to the people around the team, around Lillard, as this was all going down, was, they were very optimistic about how early they had caught this, that they felt that before there was like an injury or anything else that kind of set off the warning signs, that Dame just kind of felt something in his body that wasn't normally there, and kind of told the medical staff, like, hey, I think there's something we need to check out. And they got a very early MRI. I think it was about a day after they had figured this out, they started putting him on blood thinning medication. And that was 3 days before they even announced that, this is, it's actually a blood clot in his right calf. So that was a big thing. I also think the Bucks have, Doc Rivers kind of said it yesterday, like, I think we're going to see a lot more players return quickly from blood clots because of some of the medical advances. And, when you talk to the Bucks early in the process, one of the big things that they had him do was, I kind of wasn't expecting him to be in Phoenix on Tuesday night before they announced him to be out on Wednesday with the blood clot. Well, the reason that he was in Phoenix was not to be a Bucks Suns and support his teammates. He was there because there's a Mayo Clinic in Phoenix where he could get the best treatment possible. And I do think, as we go through this, we'll learn more about kind of the treatments that they were doing and what they were able to do to get him back on the floor, and in really an unprecedented time frame. So the Bucks are obviously very excited. They still will not have Dame in game one, but just the fact that he's even back this season is kind of a minor miracle.
And Eric Name here covers the Bucks from The Athletic. You can follow him on Twitter at Eric_NEHM. We appreciate the time. Ahead of game one coming up tomorrow. I feel like the Bucks zone has weirdly given the Pacers some issues, and maybe just zone in general. Do you expect that to be a little bit more maybe part of Milwaukee's kind of game in, game out game plan than on most nights?
It's funny. I had asked Doc about the zone yesterday, and I think a lot of times in the NBA, you go to a zone for a change of pace, just to show teams something different, to mess with their rhythm a little bit. And, that makes sense in an 82-game schedule. But when you look at NBA players, these are the best players in the world. They all know how to shoot threes. They all know how to make threes. Every team has a lineup that can really take advantage of any extra space that you're giving on the perimeter. So I'd ask Doc, I was like, is that – you guys like running zone, and you have used it, but is that something that you can do in the postseason when a team is prepped for it? And he was like, why don't you ever ask me about that, about our man defense? They have more time to prep for our man defense, and we would run that the same. And that's fair, I suppose. That is very true, that there is just more prep periods. So he does think that, yeah, they probably will be more ready for the zone and what the Bucks do. He's like, but also, we have had time to fine-tune it, and we know that they know it's coming, so we just have to be better in it, and we have to do that. And with the Bucks, one of the things that they really unlocked with Damian Lillard out, they go on that 8-game win streak at the end of the regular season. And one of the keys to that win streak was they stumbled onto a lineup where it is Giannis with 4 bench guys, and that might be a little bit too much in the playoffs. 4 bench guys makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but the Pacers are a team that has always played their bench in the playoffs, so I think those opportunities will still exist. But, it was Giannis out there with Gary Trent, AJ Green, and Bobby Portis is kind of like the 3 main guys. The other guy flips in and out a little bit. And they just blitz teams with zone on one end, and on the other end, it's Giannis surrounded by 4 shooters. And teams just didn't really have an answer for it. And part of that was the shooting. Part of that was Kevin Porter Jr. being a part of those lineups and kind of taking the Bucks to a different level, where he's really gotten his confidence back. And, there's times where Kevin Porter Jr. looks like the guy that was in Houston, averaging 20 points per game before he was out of the league for a season. So there's a lot of things in that lineup that I wonder if it is sustainable in the playoffs, and that goes from the strategy to the players that were great in it at the end of the season. The playoffs are a very different animal. Kevin Porter Jr. has never been in the playoffs. Ryan Rollins has very limited playoff experience. AJ Green was in the playoffs last season, but that was his first time, and it didn't go very well. I think there's a lot of guys on this Bucks roster that still have quite a bit to prove in the postseason.
Eric Name, The Athletic, joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline. Last thing for me, these two teams have played each other so often in the last couple of years. What does that lend to this playoff series, the fact that they're so familiar with one another, Eric?
I've been trying to figure that out. I mean, I think it lends bad blood. I think everyone's both teams know the shtick of the other teams. So, if it's talking junk, or if it's, this guy pokes me in the chest every time I shoot a jumper, whatever it is, the fuse is just shorter, right? You don't have as much getting to know each other time. They all know each other. They all know how they play. They all know what annoys them in certain situations and what can get them going in other situations, so you try to avoid that. So I think that's the biggest thing. Other than that, I mean, I think both teams would be, I'm not going to say pleased, because the Bucks lost a playoff series to the Pacers, but the Bucks have had plenty of success against the Pacers in those 15 games that they've played against each other in the last 2 seasons. And similarly, the Pacers have had plenty of success against the Bucks in those 15 games that they've played against each other. So I think both teams can go into this series with a lot of confidence. And because both teams are going to be confident going into it and they know each other so well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to say we should all be on tech watch from the moment the ball tips up, but probably. Like, I just think there's a lot of bad blood on the floor between these teams.
And maybe in the stands if Patrick Beverly makes
oh goodness
an appearance. What? I had to. Come on. They got to show that woman on the Jumbotron before the game. You got to throw it. You got to show that. You got to liven up the arena a little bit.
It'll be live. Eric, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate you getting up bright and early this morning. And I know that JB can't wait to see you this weekend.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys.
You bet. That was terrific.
I mean, what is Patrick Beverly? Actually, I do know what he's up to because I am chronically online.
Israel?
No, I believe he's back from playing overseas, and the last week or so he's been arguing with Brandon Jennings about who would win a one-on-one.
Gosh, I love that. That's the
Currently.
most Patrick Beverly thing. Did I ever tell you I had a Brandon Jennings jersey when I was in college?
No.
Bucks Brandon Jennings jersey.
Wow.
I actually don't blame you for that. He was
I think
like
I passed it off to my buddy and former roommate Brent Young at one point. To James'
he was
point,
great
I
early.
mean, that dude, he just wowed me like at Oak Hill Academy, and I was like, this is awesome. This is a great college jersey to wear, and that was probably a stupid purchase. I probably wasted like a full paycheck on that.
Coming up in a moment, we've got 4-pack of Indy 11 tickets. And
Wait, Beverly got suspended in the Israeli Championship in February 2025. This is glorious.
I actually didn't know that.
Nice.
That's so on brand.
Anyway, we got the pop quiz coming up. Oil change and a 4-pack to go see Indy 11 tomorrow night at Carroll Stadium. We'll do that next as we finish up the week strong. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Man, this is our last segment before we go full on into the NBA playoffs. Are you ready, my friend?
Born ready like Lance Stevenson.
I like that. Good
Need
ball.
Lance on the Jumbotron tomorrow. Need the woman that unfortunately got the ball thrown at her by Patrick Beverly from last year. Didn't she press charges?
Have you gotten down a Patrick Beverly wormhole in the last few minutes?
I saw he got tossed a few months ago from the Israeli championship game. And then James Boyd informed me that him and my boy Brandon Jennings were in a Twitter beef, which I love.
Very on brand.
All right, we've got on the line a family 4-pack of tickets to go see the Indy 11 and Charleston tomorrow night over at Carroll Stadium. And, of course, every week, every Friday, the Freebie Friday, the Jiffy Lube prize pack, including the oil change and everything else goes with it. 239-1070 is the number to call. It is time for the pop quiz.
Have you studied? Can you handle the pressure? Sharpen your pencils. It's time for the pop quiz. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
All right, 239-1070 is the number to call. Kevin, would you like to select a high number for Mark Duff to go through here today, or are you good?
I mean, it's game one. I don't want Mark to work too much here in the final 10 minutes of the week.
What a mensch.
So, yes, Fast Fingers is who, Mark Dykton?
It'll be Tom.
Good morning, Tom. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm fine.
All right. As long as you don't completely embarrass yourself and we throw you out, which I don't see happening.
No, Tom's
good
a
to
smart
go.
dude.
No, Tom's ready to go, but he knows the rules. He knows how it works. Tom, are you ready for your pop quiz?
Kevin, I'm ready to go.
All right. So I will start with question 1 and let you know that the Pacers host the Milwaukee Bucks in Game 1 of the first-round NBA playoff series tomorrow afternoon. It is the 4th time the Pacers and the Bucks have faced off in the postseason. Who's won more of the 3 previous NBA playoff series between Indiana and Milwaukee?
Pacers.
All right, writing down the Pacers right here. James?
Number 2, the longest losing streak in NBA postseason history is on the line this weekend. Which team in this year's playoffs enters the postseason having lost its last 14 playoff games? Is it the Pistons, the Rockets, the Clippers, or the Magic?
All of the above.
That's not an option.
Orlando.
When the ball goes out of bounds there, don't they do the... I think that's a bad hint.
Yeah, I think it's a little tough.
Maybe.
I don't know. I just feel like...
choices one more time.
Say it again.
Give him the choices.
Oh,
I have another.
I thought he said
guess?
Detroit. My fault, Tom. I thought you said Detroit.
Pistons, Rockets, Clippers, Magic.
Pistons.
All right.
Number 3 here, Tom. Name the last player to win most valuable player honors and the NBA championship in the same season. The Joker, Giannis, Steph, or LeBron?
Giannis.
Okay. Got that written down. Mark, you want to try question 4?
Oh, you want me to do it? Okay.
Yeah, let's bring you in here.
Well,
That's
hell,
Friday.
let me get it over here. All right, Michael Jordan leads all NBA players in career scoring average during the postseason with 33.4 points per game average. The player in second place is active. Is it Kevin Durant, Luka, Donovan Mitchell, or LeBron?
I'm going to say Luka.
All right.
Nice.
Number 5 here. On this day in 1998, the Colts selected Peyton Manning with the first pick in the NFL draft. Ryan Leaf went second to San Diego with Heisman Trophy winner Charles Woodson going 4th to the Raiders. Who was picked between them at number 3 in the 1998 draft? Was it Curtis Ennis, Kyle Turley? Enos, I'm sorry. Kyle Turley, Grant Wistrom?
Yep.
Or Andrew Wadsworth? You can tell these players, I haven't heard much of them.
Enos was drafted, and the famous thing was that his middle initial is P.
Yeah.
So do with that what
Penn
you will.
State.
Interesting. So.
Oh, Enos then.
No,
just on general principle.
No.
Tom, I was just making a
Tom,
phallic
that was
reference.
Mark's brain there more than anything. That was not a hint. That was
not a hint. That was just me making
that was
a phallic
Mark writing
reference
pin 15
on a Friday morning.
Scotty is mortified back here. Oh, what are you doing?
Scotty's leaving the
Junior
studio
high.
again.
I knew that wasn't going to go well when Mark started to chime in with the old pen 15 comment.
Yeah. That was the famous. I was like, "Is that real?" Because back then you didn't have Wikipedia, so you couldn't check. Try again, Tom. Don't go off of my Dong joke.
So Enos, Turley, Wistrom, or Wadsworth?
Go with Henry Wadsworth.
Or Andre.
Yeah,
that works for me.
Sure, Henry.
That works for me. All right,
out.
let's check and see how he did, gentlemen. Question number 1. Who has the all-time head-to-head playoff series lead between the Pacers and the Bucks? He said the Pacers.
Smothered chicken! Please give me some smothered chicken on that one.
3 series to none so far in that great long history series. Longest losing streak in NBA postseason history is on the line this weekend. Who owns it? He ultimately got around the Detroit Pistons, guys.
Corretto.
Detroit basketball. Gosh, I can just hear it in my ears.
Name the last player to win MVP honors and NBA championship in the same season. He said
Giannis.
This is the slip up.
The answer is C, Steph Curry.
2014, 2015.
In my opinion, that sucked.
Oh, you are harsh. You are harsh. He was right about Luka Doncic.
He's going to take us in an oil change. He's fine.
Luka Doncic was the answer to question number 4. Question number 5 was Andre Wadsworth. Went number 3 to the Cardinals back in 1998. So he gets the freebie Friday, though, the Jiffy Lube prize pack. Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985, and the 4-pack to go see the Indy 11 play against Charleston tomorrow night at Carroll Stadium. So that's going to bring us to a close for the week. I'm excited for playoff basketball. We finally made it there, Kevin.
Cannot wait. Everybody safe travels downtown. I know it's a busy travel weekend for a lot, so for those that are traveling, certainly safe travels. Hopefully Mother Nature cooperates tomorrow because the afternoon tips, it's the ambiance, the environment, the atmosphere around Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Second to none. We've been waiting a while to have it, so cannot wait.
All right, we'll see you on Monday.